Chapter 1. Azure Empire, Beijing District, Pingxi Town, Anha District. The sun had just risen from the horizon and dyed the sky orange gold. In Mo Xiaobai's room, he was facing the morning sun with a strange posture and breathing in a strange rhythm. As time passed, Mo Xiaobai's face started to turn red. His breathing was rapid and his body started to sweat. When the sun had completely risen, he sat on the ground with a tired face and leaned against the end of the bed as he panted. He exhaled slightly, and a hint of joy flashed through his eyes. I'm at the peak of body refinement now. The living beings on Azure Planet increase their strength and life by opening their force acupoints and absorbing the universe's force. Those who opened their force acupoints were called martial fundamentalists. However, before opening their force acupoints, they had to train their body and spirit to reach the standard of being able to open their force acupoints. This stage was called the body refinement stage. Now, that Mo Xiaobai was at the peak of the body refinement stage. It was time for him to break through. I'll tell Dad later that I can go by the origin refinement technique. He leaned against the end of the bed and looked at the orange-gold morning sun outside the window. The morning light shone on his face through the window, making him look as handsome as a painting. His brows furrowed slightly, revealing a trace of annoyance. The Gaokao was a month away, and his target was Moon Creek Academy. Moon Creek Academy was the closest academy to Pingxi Town and ranked 88th. If his cultivation was at the peak of the body refinement stage, it was not impossible for him to get in. However, the chances were too slim. It was only safe for him to break through to become a martial fundamentalist. Sensing and opening the force acupoints required time. Would a month be enough for him to break through to become a martial fundamentalist? Mo Xiaobai felt a sense of pressure in his heart. Let's hope it goes smoothly. Mo Xiaobai did not think too much as he had recovered most of his strength. He stood up and stretched. Xiaobai, breakfast is ready. At this moment, a clear voice came from outside the door. Coming, Mo Xiaobai responded and turned to walk towards the door. He opened the door and was met with a pair of cold, red eyes. It was the eye of a giant python. The python's entire body was crimson red, as if it was carved out of rubies. Just its upper body alone was 8 meters tall, which is about the same height as Mo Xiaobai. At this moment, the giant python's cold red eyes were staring at him, and it kept flicking its forked tongue at him. The man and the python looked at each other. Then, Mo Xiaobai stretched out his hand and pressed on the python's head, pushing it to the side. The giant python's crimson scales were warm and comfortable to the touch. Mo Xiaobai couldn't help but touch it a few more times. As he walked past the giant python, he muttered, "Little Red, don't block the way. You should lose weight. You put on weight again." When the red python heard Mo Xiaobai's words, it spat out its tongue at Mo Xiaobai in dissatisfaction. It used its head to nudge Mo Xiaobai's hand, then turned its head to make way. Mo Xiaobai turned a blind eye to Little Red's tantrum and turned to enter the bathroom. The crimson fire python, Little Red, was his mother's contracted origin beast. They had grown up together, and the two of them were used to playing around. Mo Xiaobai entered the bathroom. Just as he closed the door, he suddenly felt a sharp pain in his head. It was as if someone had taken a wooden stick and stuck it into his brain, stirring it with all their might. His vision went black, and he hurriedly supported himself against the wall to prevent himself from falling. Mo Xiaobai looked at his own face in the mirror. His originally handsome face was extremely pale, and his forehead was covered in cold sweat. His black hair was soaked and stuck to his forehead. His black eyes were filled with pain. It was happening again. He held his head with his right hand and gritted his teeth, not daring to make sound. Ever since he was 10 years old, he had suffered from headaches from time to time. At first, the symptoms were mild, and the duration was short. Mo Yu and Mu Yuzhu had taken Mo Xiaobai to see a doctor, and they had even found a body fundamentalist with healing abilities. In the end, they had found that Mo Xiaobai's body was healthy and there were no abnormalities. However, as he continued to grow, the frequency of his pain increased, and the duration of his pain also increased. Recently, The pain had made Mo Xiao Bai wonder if he would die from the pain. This was because there were a few times when he had hallucinations from the pain. He discovered that when he was in pain, he actually saw strange streaks of light in the air. The streaks of light were of different colors. There were white, red, gray, black, and all of them were blurry. However, when the pain subsided, the streaks of light in the air also disappeared. The pain this time was far more painful than any of the previous times. A trace of fear appeared in Mo Xiao Bai's heart. He wouldn't really die from the pain, would he? Gradually, Mo Xiao Bai's body began to lose strength, and his consciousness gradually became blurry. Ironically, the originally blurry rays of light gradually became clear at this moment. Red, white, black. The colors kept changing, and they were changing faster and faster. Am I going to die? Dying in a bathroom? That's too ridiculous, isn't it? He wanted to pull the corners of his mouth and laugh at himself, but he discovered that his facial muscles had become so stiff that they seemed to have lost the ability to move. Boom! Just as Mo Xiao Bai was about to lose consciousness, there was a deafening roar in his head, as if the world had been split open. His mind shook, as if clear spring water had been injected into dry land for a long time. His scattered consciousness returned to his body once again. Mo Xiao Bai's vision became pure white, but this pure white only lasted for a moment before disappearing. His vision also recovered. I'm alive? Mo Xiao Bai forced himself to raise his head and look at the mirror. His face in the mirror was as pale as paper, his hair and clothes were all wet, and his eyes flashed with a dazed expression. He pulled the corners of his mouth, and his reflection in the mirror smiled bitterly. I'm really alive. The pain receded like the tide, and his strength gradually returned. Mo Xiao Bai relaxed. It's good to be alive, but what was that just now? Mo Xiao Bai thought back to the last explosion in his head, and his heart was filled with confusion. He felt that something was different about him. At this moment, he discovered that his vision had changed. Around him, there were streaks of white light floating in the air. These streaks of light looked messy and disorderly, quietly floating in the air as if they were surrounding him. Mo Xiao Bai opened his eyes wide and looked at these white streaks of light, his heart beating rapidly. These streaks of light. He swallowed and felt that his heart was about to jump out of his throat. These streaks of light. Weren't these the streaks of light he saw when he was having a headache? He clearly remembered that when he was having a headache, he saw many different colors of light, and among them were white. But didn't his headache just end? How could he still see these white streaks of light? Mo Xiao Bai looked at these white streaks of light, and, after a moment of silence, he slowly reached out his hand and carefully touched one of them with his index finger. However, his index finger did not touch anything and directly passed through the white streaks of light. There was no way to touch it. Mo Xiao Bai blinked and unwillingly reached out his hand to touch the white streaks of light again, but it was as if he was touching air. What on earth was this? Mo Xiao Bai was dumbfounded. Mo Xiao Bai, what are you doing in the bathroom? Why did you take so long to shower? Breakfast is already cold. Just as Mo Xiao Bai was in a daze, a clear voice came from outside the door and pulled Mo Xiao Bai back to reality. Mo Xiao Bai hurriedly shouted, "It's almost done. You guys eat first." Mo Xiao Bai looked at the white streaks of light and then walked into the bathroom. What surprised Mo Xiao Bai was that the white streaks of light moved with him, as if they were centered around him. Mo Xiao Bai, he waved his hand and swept it across the white streaks of light, but it was useless, and he could not touch them. This wasn't an illusion, right? Mo Xiao Bai fell into deep thought. Could it be an illusion left behind by the pain from before? As for other possibilities, Mo Xiao Bai did not dare to think about them. If some demon or evil god cursed him, he would cry himself to death. However, Mo Xiao Bai thought that this was unlikely. After all, he did not provoke any demon or evil god. Anyway, from the looks of it, the light did not seem to have any effect on him. So Mo Xiao Bai did not care about it. Maybe after a while, it would just disappear as if it had suddenly appeared. He did not think too much about it and took off his sweat-soaked clothes, quickly took a shower, changed into a black slim-fit school uniform, and hurried out of the bathroom. At the dining table, a man and a woman were already seated. The man was Mo Xiaobai's father, Mou. Mou had sharp eyebrows and bright eyes, and his facial features were well defined. He was very handsome, but there were 3 thin scars from the left side of his forehead to the side of his face, which slightly ruined his handsomeness. According to Mou, it was during an adventure in the void when he was still in university. He was scratched by the iron claw cat while protecting his wife, Mo Xiaobai's mother, Mu Yuzhu. As he missed the best time to recover, there were some scars left behind. However, Mou always said that scars were a man's metal, and he felt that it was very manly. The woman was Mo Xiaobai's mother, Mu Yuzhu. Mu Yuzhu was tall and slender, with a head of beautiful and smooth black hair and a pair of fiery red eyes. She was very beautiful. When Mu Yuzhu was in school, she was also a famous genius and the school belle, and even had the talent of fire affinity. According to Mou, Mu Yuzhu had many suitors, and there were many men who were more outstanding than Mou. The opportunity to be together with Mou was also because of that adventure in the void. Perhaps it was because a friend in need was a friend, but the two had always been very loving. Mo Xiaobai was forced to grow up with the two of them showing off their love. Chapter 2. When she saw Mo Xiaobai walk over, Mu Yuzhu asked, "What's wrong? Why were you in the bathroom for so long?" Mo Xiaobai pulled out a chair and sat down. He shook his head and smiled. "I'm fine." Mu Yuzhu nodded and didn't have any doubts. She picked up a piece of fried meat that was golden on both sides and filled Mo Xiaobai's bowl with fragrant aroma. "You're going to participate in the elite trial today, right? Eat more and adjust your condition." On the side, Mo looked at Mo Xiaobai with a serious expression and said, "Xiaobai, although your school chose the Greystone Hills as a normal rank 1 void domain, within a void domain, danger will always exist. You have to be vigilant at all times, understand? Especially to strangers. In the void domain, the most unpredictable thing is the human heart." Mo Xiaobai looked at Mou and Mu Yuzhu and realized that they didn't seem to notice the white light around them. His heart calmed down a little. As expected, this was the hallucination after the headache, right? Mo Xiaobai nodded seriously. "Okay, I understand." Mou and Mu Yuzhu were experienced adventurers and had been to many void domains. Mo Xiaobai would naturally listen to their opinions. Mou had been talking about it since the day before yesterday. He didn't know how many times she had said it, so it was hard for him not to remember it. Mu Yuzhu smiled and said, "We originally planned to bring you to the void domain after you broke through. I didn't expect your school to have such a plan. Not bad. I know about the Greystone Hills. If you're lucky, you'll find many things that are suitable for you." Mo Xiaobai bit into a piece of meat and revealed a look of anticipation. Mo Xiaobai had heard since he was young that there were all kinds of demonic beasts and demons in the void domain. There were also all kinds of treasures. Those who were lucky would become rich overnight, while those who were unlucky wouldn't even have a corpse left. He had been looking forward to entering the void domain for a long time. Now, he finally had the chance. At this moment, Mou thought of something and said, "All right, come back straight after school these few days. Don't stay outside." Mo Xiaobai stopped what he was doing and asked in confusion, "What's wrong?" Mou pointed at the newspaper on the side. "Last night, a little girl was killed. The murder hasn't been caught yet." Mo Xiaobai was stunned. He turned to look at the newspaper. There was a picture on the front page of the newspaper. There was a large pool of blood on the picture. Dismembered. The corpse is incomplete. The murder hasn't been caught yet. Mou's expression was serious. Mo Xiaobai looked at the bloodstains on the photo and felt a chill in his heart. The meat in his mouth no longer tasted good. He quickly nodded. "You know, I don't go out much." When Mou heard this, she immediately smiled. "I'm not worried about you." "All right, have you reached the body refinement completion stage?" Mo Xiaobai nodded his head. "It's perfect." Mu Yuzhu's eyes lit up as she smiled and said, "Not bad. Then we should start to open the origin aperture next. His progress is about the same as mine back then. As expected of my son, his talent is still not bad." Mu Yuzhu looked a little proud of herself. Mou also nodded her head in satisfaction. "Not bad indeed. It's because you're hard-working enough. Mou and Muyuju were both high-level 3 apertures martial body fundamentalists. The two of them had established the Leisurely Bamboo Adventure Group and were considered reputable powerhouses in Pingxi Town. Mo Xiaobai had been taught since he was young that one's talent determined the upper limit of one's achievements, while hard work determined the lower limit. Talent was hard to change, but one could choose to be hardworking. Mo Xiaobai was indeed hardworking. In addition to his decent talent, he reached the body refinement completion stage at the age of 16 and was the top student in Pingxi Town's Moonlight High School. And Mo Yu continued, "When you come back from the elite training, we'll go to the Adventurers branch to take a look at the high-grade beginner origin refining technique." High-grade? Mo Xiaobai's eyes widened. High-grade is very expensive, isn't it? Middle grade should be enough, right? Origin refining technique was a special origin skill used to absorb force and increase one's cultivation. It could be said that it was the foundation of a martial body fundamentalist. The beginner origin refining technique was divided into low grade, middle grade, high grade, supreme grade, and flawless grades. Although a high grade beginner origin refining technique was good, the price would definitely be very high. This was an origin refining technique, not an ordinary origin skill. Mo frowned slightly and glared at Mo Xiaobai. "What do you know? The higher the grade of the origin refining technique, the easier it is to open the origin chakra and the faster the cultivation speed. The foundation is very important." Mu Yuzhu nodded. "Your father is right. We've saved a lot of money these past few years. We can still afford a high-grade beginner origin refining technique. With a high-grade beginner origin refining technique, you'll have an easier time in the future. At least you'll be stronger than the two of us." Mo Xiaobai looked at Mo Yu and Mu Yuzhu's determined expressions and naturally did not object. He nodded. At the same time, he was secretly looking forward to it. How powerful would a high-grade beginner origin refining technique be? With this, he might be able to break through to 3 apertures before he graduated from university. He might even have a chance to break through to 4 or even 5 apertures in the future. By then, wouldn't he be able to establish an adventurer group in Pingxi Town that was even stronger than his parents? Then, he would find a good-looking girl with a good figure and a gentle temperament to marry and live a happy life. As he thought about it, Mo Xiaobai felt a little happy. He even forgot about the sudden appearance of the white ray of light. After breakfast, Mo Xiaobai went to school. Because his parents were rather famous origin practitioners in town, the neighborhood where his house was located was quite nice. There were tall trees on both sides of the stone path. The May breeze blew past, causing the leaves to sway. There were also all kinds of unknown birds chirping continuously. The environment was quite good. Moreover, there were security patrols in the neighborhood to prevent evil creatures or criminals from entering the neighborhood. The Azure Empire was not safe these days. There were all kinds of sects that worshipped evil gods from the astral plane. There was even a void god cult that worshipped the void demon. Those lunatics believed that the void demon would eventually occupy the Azure planet, and that the void was the final destination of the universe. Mo Xiaobai still could not understand the thoughts of those lunatics. At this moment, Mo Xiaobai suddenly thought of the newspaper in the morning. His face turned pale. Could the murderer be a lunatic? He could not help but shrink his neck. He felt that the originally cool breeze had become a little cold. He arrived at the entrance of the neighborhood. In the security room, a sturdy man with a pair of white rabbit ears and a resolute face grinned at Mo Xiaobai. His snow-white teeth shone under the sunlight. "Xiaobai, you're going to school?" Mo Xiaobai nodded and replied with a smile. "Yes, Uncle Ning. The college entrance examination is coming up, right? With your results, Xiaobai, it should be a sure thing for you to be in the top 100 colleges. I really envy your parents," Uncle Ning said as he opened the door for Mo Xiaobai. Mo Xiaobai smiled a little embarrassedly. "I can't be sure yet. I hope I can get good results." Uncle Ning sighed again. "If my son could have your results, I would wake up laughing in my dreams." "Ha ha!" Mo Xiaobai laughed dryly. He did not know how to continue the conversation. He could only slip out of the door and wave at Uncle Ning. "Uncle Ning, I'll be leaving first." "Hey, go ahead. Be careful on the road." The town is not peaceful these few days. Got it. Mo Xiao Bai's school, Moonlight High School, was not far from his home. He usually chose to walk. The huge bluestone street was about 20 meters wide. There were people driving Origin cars and ferocious giant mounts. The sound of engines and roars echoed on the street. People came and went on the sidewalks on both sides of the street. There were rabbit men with rabbit ears like Uncle Ning, night creatures with silver hair, red eyes, and pale skin. There were barbarians who were over 2 meters tall and had strong bodies. Their arms and legs were covered in stone armor. There were elves with pointed ears and slender bodies. There were also merfolk with fins and gills behind their ears. Of course, there were also humans like Mo Xiao Bai. Humans, rabbit men, night creatures, barbarians, elves, and merfolk. The 6 races built the current Azure Empire together. It was said that in the distant past, the 6 races had their own glorious civilization until the void demons invaded and destroyed everything. After countless years of development, the 6 races were united. Although the ancient ruins and documents were difficult to decipher, and the people did not know much about the demon invasion and the glorious history of the past, this did not stop the Empire from being vigilant against the demons. No one wanted to be awakened from their dreams by a group of demons one day. After walking through a few streets, Mo Xiao Bai arrived at Moonlight High School. When Mo Xiao Bai entered the school, the students who came to the school one after another intentionally or unintentionally looked at him, especially the girls. They would sneak a few glances at him from time to time and then lower their heads to whisper something to their companions. Then, their faces would be a bit shy, and they would laugh and pout coquettishly. Mo Xiao Bai was already used to this kind of scene. He was not boasting, but Mo Yu and Mu Yuzhu were very good-looking. As the product of their love, he was really handsome. His grades were also the best in the school, so he was very popular with the girls. Of course, he was still single and a virgin. Before the college entrance exam, he had to study hard and get into a good Origin academy. The graduates' classroom was in a separate building. This was to ensure that the graduates could prepare for the exam with peace of mind and would not be disturbed by the juniors. When Mo Xiao Bai entered the classroom, there were already quite a few people in the classroom. A few of them had pale faces and were whispering to each other about the murder case last night. Mo Xiao Bai returned to his seat and opened the drawer of his desk. There were 2 white letters and 1 pink letter inside. Mo Xiao Bai skillfully took out the letters and put them in the compartment under the desk. When Mo Xiao Bai's deskmate, Zheng Dong, saw this scene, the corner of his mouth twitched. He said, 3 more love letters? How many have you received this month? Mo Xiao Bai shook his head. I haven't counted. Zheng Dong's face was full of envy and jealousy. Damn it. It's good to be handsome and have a high cultivation level. So many beautiful women are writing love letters to you. What's even more infuriating is that you didn't even look at a single one. It's simply a waste of resources. Zheng Dong looked like he was heartbroken. Mo Xiao Bai smiled and said, dating will affect your studies. The college entrance exam is the most important thing now. Zheng Dong waved his hand. Fine. You're just like my dad. Youth is about letting go of yourself, Xiao Bai. If I had your qualities, I would have already killed 100 people. Before he finished speaking, he shrunk his neck and stopped. Mo Xiao Bai glanced at the cowering Zheng Dong and turned to look at the class entrance. At the door, a middle-aged merman with a thin face, sunken cheeks, a slightly high hairline, and light blue short hair was neatly combed. He was looking in their direction. This was Mo Xiao Bai's homeroom teacher, Li Qishui. As expected, Mo Xiao Bai laughed in his heart. Li Qishui's light yellow eyes first glared at Zheng Dong, who had shrunk his neck, before turning to look at Mo Xiao Bai. A smile appeared on his old-fashioned face. Xiao Bai, come out for a moment. Mo Xiao Bai stood up and walked out of the classroom. Teacher Li, what's the matter? Li Qishui smiled and said, the elite trial is about to begin. I'll take you to Director Hong. This time, you'll personally lead the team. Mo Xiao Bai nodded and followed behind Li Qishui, leaving the class. Chapter 3. Li Qishui brought Mo Xiao Bai to an office. The door was open, and there were 3 people inside. Li Qishui knocked on the door, and the three turned to look at him. Li Qishui said to a slightly chubby middle-aged man with sparse gray curly hair, "Director Hong, I brought Mo Xiao by here." This was Moonlight Middle School's director of education, Hong Shi. He was a peak, two-apertured body fundamentalist. Hong Shi nodded with a kind smile on his chubby face. "Yes, thank you for your hard work, Teacher Li." Li Qishui smiled. "It's my duty, Director Hong. Then I'll have to trouble you with Mo Xiao Bai." Then he nodded at Mo Xiao Bai and motioned for Mo Xiao Bai to enter the office. Then he turned and left. Mo Xiao Bai walked into the office and glanced at the two people on the side. One was a delicate and pretty elf girl with long green hair, and the other was a tall and thin night creature boy. Mo Xiao Bai knew both of them. The elf girl was Lin Mingyu, second place in Moonlight Middle School. The night creature boy was Mingyu, third place in their school, and Mo Xiao Bai was that first place. This time, the three of them were going to participate in the school's elite trial. After Mo Xiao Bai came in, Hong Shi smiled and said, "Okay, everyone is here." His gaze swept over Mo Xiao Bai and the other two as he said, "This elite trial is a new teaching experiment for our Moonlight Middle School. You should already know the specifics. If there are no problems, then we'll set off now." Mo Xiao Bai and the other two shook their heads. "No problem." Hong Shi nodded. "Okay, let's go." Hong Shi first brought Mo Xiao Bai and the other two to Moonlight Middle School's training field and let Mo Xiao Bai and the other two choose their weapons and armor. Mo Xiao Bai had not become a body fundamentalist yet, so he could only use normal weapons. He chose a sharp, fine iron longsword. As for armor, he chose a set of leather armor made from the skin of a greystone wolf. It could barely withstand a single attack from a level 1 greystone wolf and would not be killed instantly. After choosing their equipment, Hong Shi brought Mo Xiao Bai and the other two onto the Moonlight Middle School's bus and left the school. The bus quickly passed through the center of Pingxi Town and arrived at the outskirts of the town. Finally, it stopped in front of a black building. Hong Shi said, "We're here. Get off the bus." Mo Xiao Bai and the other two hurriedly followed Hong Shi down the school bus. After getting off, Mo Xiao Bai raised his head to look at the black building. The black building was made from black steel rock. The gate was about 10 meters tall and 10 meters wide. The entire building was about 1,000 meters in length and width. It looked extremely huge. There was a metal plaque hanging above the gate with the words Greystone Hills Adventure Center engraved on it. There were many people in the Adventure Center. They were all wearing leather or metal armor, armed adventurers. Some of them were in groups, and some of them were alone as they entered the Adventure Center. There were also adventurers coming out from the Adventure Center. Some of them had smiles on their faces, while others had sorrowful looks on their faces. While Mo Xiao Bai was observing the adventurers coming and going, Hong Shi said, "This is the Greystone Hills Adventure Center building. The entrance to the Greystone Hills Void Domain is inside." Mo Xiao Bai and the other two looked expectant. "All right, follow me in." Hong Shi led Mo Xiao Bai and the other two through the gate. Inside the gate was a huge circular hall. The hall was filled with people. There were even more people than outside. Mo Xiao Bai looked around curiously. There were rows of counters at the side of the hall. Adventurers were lining up to do business. There was another door facing the Adventure Center. A large number of adventurers were going in and out. Mo Xiao Bai saw an adventurer with a broken arm being carried out by his companions. He was wailing in pain. Then, a group of workers in white uniforms rushed over and carried him away on a stretcher. The adventurers' expressions didn't change at all. They were still joking around. Mo Xiao Bai felt his scalp go numb. Lin Mingyu's face turned pale. Mengyu's face twitched. "These people are really thick-skinned." Mo Xiao Bai heard Mengyu mutter softly. Hong Shi heard this and glanced at Mo Xiao Bai and the others. He said, "As adventurers, getting injured is a common occurrence. You guys will slowly get used to it. All right, I'll go buy the tickets. You guys wait here," Hong Si said as he walked toward the counter on the side of the line. After Hong Shi left, Lin Mingyu let out a sigh of relief. She said expectantly, "We're about to enter the Void Domain. It would be great if we could get an Origin Skill Crystal." Mengyu harumphed coldly. you're thinking too much. Origin skill crystals are so rare. Where are you going to find one? I just need 1 or 2 origin skill crystals. A grade 1 origin skill crystal costs 10,000. It would be best if we could find some spirit herbs or something. There was a look of longing on his face. Lin Mingyu was very unhappy that Mengyu had broken her beautiful dream. She curled her lips and then looked at Mo Xiaobai. Mo Xiaobai, what do you think? You're the strongest. When the time comes, you should be able to get the most rewards. Mo Xiaobai laughed. I'm not that much stronger than you guys. The Greystone Hills are also very dangerous for me. Besides, luck is also very important in getting rewards in the Void Domain. Lin Mingyu nodded. That's true. Luck is indeed very important. Mengyu didn't refute Lin Mingyu. Instead, he said with an envious expression, I heard that someone killed a grade 1, 1-star Greystone Wolf in the Greystone Hills. In the end, they actually obtained an elite grade origin skill crystal. Mo Xiao by Lin Mingyu, the two of them revealed expressions of disbelief. Lin Mingyu said, unhappily, this kind of person is basically public enemy number 1. His luck is actually so good. Mo Xiao by and Mengyu nodded in agreement. Mo Xiao by felt a bit envious. If the circumstances allowed, he also wanted to be public enemy number 1. Very quickly, Hong Shi returned with a smile and a white medallion in his hand. All right, come with me. Hong Shi brought Mo Xiaobai and the other two through the innermost door. Behind the door was a large room with a radius of a few hundred meters. In the innermost part of the room, there was a silver door of light. Outside the silver door of light, there was a layer of metal fence that surrounded it, leaving only 2 rows of passageways. Outside the passageways, there was a group of staff members wearing blue uniforms standing guard. The adventurers passed their medallions to the staff members. After the staff members checked, they were allowed to enter the fence. Then, these adventurers passed through the silver door of light and disappeared. There were also some adventurers who came out from the other side of the door. Mo Xiaobai, Lin Mingyu, and Mengyu looked at this scene in shock. Hong Shi looked at the 3 of them and smiled as he explained, this is the entrance to the Void Realm. Mo Xiaobai looked at the entrance and asked curiously, Director Hong, is the area in the Void Realm really not on planet Azure? Hong Shi nodded. Yes, it's another space. As for where it is exactly, we can't be sure. Some strong people believe that this space is connected to planet Azure, but not in our universe. Is there really another universe? Mengyu couldn't help but ask. Hong Shi's eyes flashed. According to ancient records, demons are not creatures of our universe. There are demons in many void realms. So, some strong people believe that the Void Realm is a special space that connects our universe and the demon universe. Seeing that Mo Xiaobai and the other 2 still wanted to ask questions, Hong Shi said, All right, about these questions, after you get into the Force Academy, you will have classes in this area. It's almost our turn. Mo Xiaobai still had many questions in his heart, but he realized that there were still a few people before it was their turn, so he could only suppress his curiosity. The staff members checked very quickly. They just swiped the medallion on a strange device and passed with a beep. Soon, Hong Shi led Mo Xiaobai and the other 2 through the inspection and entered the fence. Mo Xiaobai looked at the Void Realm door of light from a close distance. He realized that the silver door of light seemed to contain specks of light, looking very mysterious. He followed Hong Shi towards the door of light, his heart beating fast. This was his first time passing through the Void Realm door of light. Hong Shi walked in, and like a stone thrown into water, ripples appeared on the door of light. Then, Hong Shi disappeared. Mo Xiaobai felt his mouth dry up. He swallowed his saliva. This was his first time entering the Void Realm, so he was a bit nervous. He closed his eyes and stepped through the door of light. Mo Xiaobai felt his whole body turn cold. When he opened his eyes, he found that he was already in a plaza. Other than him, there were many other adventurers in the plaza. Not far in front of him was Director Hong, who was looking at him with a smile. Behind him was that door of light. He had entered through that door of light. The strange white light continued to surround him, covering an area with a radius of about 50 meters. From the time he left until now, Mo Xiaobai would look at this thing from time to time, but he found that the light had never changed. Moreover, other people couldn't see this light at all. It even existed after entering the void realm. This illusion wouldn't last forever, right? Mo Xiao Bai felt a toothache. At this time, Hong Shi's voice came from afar. Xiao Bai, come over here. Don't block the way. Mo Xiao Bai came back to his senses and looked up to see Hong Shi waving at him. He quickly walked over. The door of light rippled again, and Meng Yu and Lin Mingyu walked out one after another. Their faces were a bit pale, and their eyes flashed. There was still a bit of nervousness on their faces. They looked around, and when they saw Mo Xiao Bai and Hong Shi, they quickly walked over. Hong Shi looked at their pale faces and comforted them with a smile. It's your first time entering the void realm. It's normal to be a bit nervous. You'll be fine after a few more times. Mo Xiao Bai and the others looked at each other, and Lin Mingyu stuck out her tongue. It's really a bit scary. Mengyu nodded. Yeah, I was a bit scared that we wouldn't be here when we came in. Mo Xiao Bai also nodded. It was their first time, so they were always a bit nervous. Hong Shi said, this is the Void Realm encampment in the Greystone Hills. The functions here are similar to the Adventure Center. You can buy and sell items, accept missions, heal injuries, etc. However, there are also residences here. The Void Realm's entrance fee isn't cheap, and many adventurers will stay here for a while. I guarantee that you won't lose money. Hong Shi introduced Mo Xiao Bai and the others to the encampment as he led them out of the plaza. Chapter 4. Hong Shi introduced the adventurers' encampment to Mo Xiao Bai and the other two as he led them out of the encampment along the street. The buildings in the encampment were all made of hard metal and were relatively short. The tallest building was no more than 10 meters tall. There were also teams of encampment guards wearing standard gray leather armor patrolling the streets. There were quite a number of adventurers in the encampment. Bold laughter, noise, and even insults echoed in the encampment. There were also adventurers hurrying in and out of equipment stores, potion stores, adventurer guild branches, and even residential areas. Mo Xiao Bai looked at the lively encampment and felt that it was very novel. The adventurers' encampment in the Void Domain was completely different from Pingxi Town. Soon, they arrived at the outskirts of the encampment. There was a black city wall about 10 meters tall at the edge of the encampment. The city wall spread and seemed to surround the entire encampment. There was a 5-meter-tall city gate at the end of the street. At this moment, the city gate was wide open and adventurers were coming in and out. There were 2 teams of encampment guards on duty on both sides of the city gate. Hong Shi smiled and said, "All right, let's go out." Mo Xiao Bai and the other 2 looked at each other and realized that they were all nervous and expectant. They followed Hong Shi out of the city gate. They were finally going to see the real Void Domain. Soon, they walked out of the encampment. Outside the city gate was a vast and empty wasteland. Further away were small hills. Some of the hills were covered with dense trees, while some of the hills were more barren. They were covered with jagged rocks, and only weeds grew. Hong Shi said, "We'll get in the Western District. The magical beasts there are not ranked. It's the most suitable place for you to train." With that, Hong Shi led Mo Xiao Bai and the other 2 towards the Western District. Mo Xiao Bai realized that compared to the other areas, there were very few adventurers in the Western District. At first, they could see a few, but when they got closer to the hills, they couldn't even see a single person. Mo Xiao Bai wasn't the only one who noticed this. Lin Mingyu and Mingyu also noticed this. Mingyu asked doubtfully, "Director, why are there so few adventurers in the West District?" Hong Shi glanced at them and said, "Since the West District's demonic beasts are very weak, and there are very few fays and treasures, the harvest is naturally very small. Unless it's a little guy like you who hasn't become a body fundamentalist, ordinary adventurers won't come here." When they heard Hong Shi say that their harvest was even less, Mo Xiao Bai and the other 2's faces fell. They were still thinking of getting a few origin skill crystals and a few dozen or even a few hundred origin crystals. If that was the case, wouldn't he be unable to obtain it? Mo Xiao Bai opened his mouth and was about to speak when Hong Shi seemed to have understood what he was thinking. He said, "Don't think about going to other areas. Rank 1 demonic beasts aren't something you can deal with. Just stay here and look for fays. It's the best training for you. When Mo Xiaobai and the other two heard Hong Shi say this, they had no choice but to accept reality helplessly. Mo Xiaobai sighed in his heart. It would be great if he could break through and become a body fundamentalist. Seeing Mo Xiaobai and the other two's worried faces, Hong Shi smiled and said, "If you want to go to other areas, work hard and become body fundamentalists as soon as possible. Okay, from here on out, you guys will split up and enter the hills. If you encounter any danger, use the signal gun to call for help. I'll come quickly to save you." When Mo Xiaobai and the other two heard this, they came back to their senses. They realized that they were already in front of a small hill with many trees. Other than them, there wasn't a single adventurer in sight. Mo Xiaobai smiled and said, "Director Hong, I'll go in first." Then he nodded at Lin Mingyu and Mengyu and turned to enter the forest. Lin Mingyu and Mengyu looked at each other and entered the forest from another direction. Hong Shi, on the other hand, glanced at the direction where the three of them had left and slowly walked in. With his cultivation, there was nothing in this area that could attract him. He just had to make sure that there weren't any powerful demonic beasts nearby. Mo Xiaobai walked in the forest. His leather combat boots rustled as he stepped on the leaves that hadn't rotted yet. Although he didn't know what kind of space the void territory was, the sky above the gray stone hills had sunlight shining down. The light passed through the gaps between the leaves and reflected spots of light on the ground. However, the forest was still a little dark. At this moment, he opened his eyes wide and looked in a direction in a daze. The white light that hadn't changed since it appeared in the morning was now changing. In the direction that he was looking at, there was a touch of red at the edge of the white light. At the edge of the light, which was almost all white, the faint red color was too conspicuous. A different color. Mo Xiaobai's heart raced. He was a little wary, a little curious, and a little surprised. He had seen the red light when he was having a headache. He didn't expect to see it again. He originally thought that the white light was a side effect of the headache. Now, it seemed that wasn't the case. The light red light came from a deeper part of the forest. Because of the dim sunlight, it looked a little eerie. Mo Xiaobai gripped the fine, iron longsword in his hand and moved in the direction of the faint red light. However, what surprised Mo Xiaobai was that as he moved towards the light red light, there were more and more of it. From the original light red light, it slowly became a small cluster. The small cluster of light red light came from a shrub between a large tree and a rock that was about the height of a person. It was very obvious in the white light, as if it was guiding something. Mo Xiaobai looked at the shrub that was illuminated by the light red light and raised his eyebrows slightly. Was there something there? He held the long sword and slowly approached the shrub. His body was tense in case something came out of the shrub. When he reached the edge of a shrub, Mo Xiaobai held the long sword and slowly parted the shrub. The scene under the shrub slowly appeared in Mo Xiaobai's line of sight. When he saw the stubborn gray grass at the bottom of the huge rock, Mo Xiaobai's breathing stagnated and his eyes widened. Gray rock grass. Mo Xiaobai's hands trembled with excitement. His heart was beating rapidly, and the corners of his mouth rose involuntarily, revealing a surprised smile. He looked around vigilantly. After confirming that there were no magical beasts around, he couldn't help but pounce forward. Chapter 5. Mo Xiaobai's face was full of smiles as he looked at the gray rock grass that he picked from the bottom of the rock. The leaves of the gray rock grass were gray, and it looked like grass that was carved out of gray rock. What made Mo Xiaobai happy was that the gray rock grass was one of the main ingredients for the stone skin medicine, and its value was not low. The gray rock grass in his hand had 2 leaves, which could be sold for 2 origin crystals. That was $20,000. He happily put the gray rock grass into his spatial ring. This spatial ring was a gift from Mo Xiaobai's parents for his 16th birthday. The space inside the ring was only 1 cubic meter, which was not big, but for the current Mo Xiaobai, it was enough. After all, he originally used it to store his books and homework. After putting away the gray rock grass, Mo Xiaobai was surprised to find that the faint red light surrounding the shrubbery was slowly disappearing. Soon, the light returned to its original white color. Seeing this scene, Mo Xiao fell in a deep thought. Did the faint red light appear because of the gray rock grass? Could it be that this light could help him find the herbs? If he guessed more boldly, could it be other treasures? Thinking of this possibility, Mo Xiao's heart raced violently, as if it was going to jump out of his chest. If it was really as he guessed, then in the void domain, this light would be very useful. Mo Xiao took a few deep breaths to calm himself down, and then began to search the forest again. If he encountered the faint red light again, and there were herbs there, then it meant that his guess was very likely to be correct. The forest was not big, only about 1 kilometer in radius. Mo Xiao quickly left the forest. Outside the forest was a rocky slope full of weeds, and it was close to the top of a small hill. What made Mo Xiao somewhat regretful was that after walking around the forest, the light did not change, and it was still white. He walked out of the forest and walked up the slope, intending to take a look at the top of the hill. At this moment, Mo Xiao noticed that at the edge of the white light, the color of the light changed again. This time, the light was not light red, but light gray. Wisps of light gray light surrounded a pile of rubble outside the forest. It also looked different in the white light. Seeing this, Mo Xiao was overjoyed. He had seen light gray rays of light when he was having a headache. He just didn't know what would happen this time. Mo Xiao held his sword and carefully approached the pile of rubble where the light gray ray was. When Mo Xiao was about 20 meters away from the pile of rubble, a sound came from behind the pile of rubble. Then, a gray wolf slowly climbed up from behind the pile of rubble. It was a giant wolf with a shoulder height of about 1.5 meters. Its gray fur was a little messy, and its body was slender and strong. Its ghastly green eyes stared fixedly at Mo Xiao. Its body was slightly crouched, and the corners of its mouth cracked open to reveal its white teeth. Drops of mucus dripped from the corners of its mouth, and its entire body emitted a ferocious aura. Whoa! Seeing this ferocious giant gray wolf, Mo Xiao was shocked. His body tensed up, and he subconsciously tightened his grip on the fine, iron longsword in his hand. A gray stone wolf. However, looking at its appearance, it hadn't been ranked yet. Mo Xiao felt the aura of the gray stone wolf, and he was slightly relieved. Then, Mo Xiao's pupils shrank. He was shocked to find that the light gray ray was actually wrapped around the gray stone wolf's body. This light gray ray actually indicated that it was an unranked magical beast. Mo Xiao didn't have time to think. The gray stone wolf had already howled. Its 4 limbs kicked off the rubble, and it turned into a gray shadow that pounced at Mo Xiao. Its aura was astonishing. As the gray stone wolf moved, the light gray rays of light continued to surround the gray stone wolf. Mo Xiao held his long sword in his right hand, stomped his right foot on the ground, and leaned his body to the left. The gray stone wolf pounced past Mo Xiao's side, and he couldn't help but frown at the stench coming from its body. With a wave of his right arm and a flick of his wrist, the long sword in his hand sliced through the air, and a flash of white light flashed. Chi! The long sword's edge slashed across the gray stone wolf's abdomen, and the sound of silk tearing rang out. A large gash opened up on its abdomen, and blood gushed out. Roar! The gray stone wolf let out a blood-curdling cry. Its body fell to the ground, and its movements were somewhat staggered. Blood gushed out from the wound on its abdomen like a waterfall. After Mo Xiao's sword slash, he bent his legs slightly, stomped on the ground, and rushed to the front of the gray stone wolf in a few steps. With a flick of his wrist, the long sword in his hand parted the air and went straight for the gray stone wolf's neck. Chi! Under the force of Mo Xiao's charge, the sharp, fine, iron longsword pierced through the gray stone wolf's neck. After succeeding in his attack, Mo Xiao once again stomped his legs forward and his body jumped backwards. The gray stone wolf's final counterattack came at him, and its sharp claws flashed with a cold light as they slashed across Mo Xiao's leather armor. Mo Xiao drew his long sword as he retreated. Fresh blood gushed out from the wound on the gray stone wolf's neck. Its body staggered, and it coughed up mouthfuls of blood. Its body swayed as it fell to the ground, and its life force dissipated. Mo Xiaobai exhaled slightly. He swung his long sword, flinging off the bloodstains on the blade, and looked at the gray stone wolf's corpse with some anticipation. After a moment, Mo Xiaobai's anticipation turned into disappointment. TSK. There were actually no origin skill crystals. Not to mention origin skill crystals, there weren't even any origin crystals. At the very least, some extraordinary materials would have been good. Mo Xiaobai sighed slightly. In the end, this was an unranked magical beast. How could it have so many good things? He looked at the gray light slowly dissipating from the gray stone wolf's corpse and narrowed his eyes as he pondered. It seemed that the light didn't just represent medicinal herbs. Did different colors represent different things? Did the light gray color represent magical beasts or danger? He still needed to put into practice. Mo Xiaobai shook his head slightly and set off once again. The sky slowly turned from a deep blue to an orange-yellow color. It was already evening. Mo Xiaobai was resting on a rock on the slope of a hill. During this day, he had more or less understood the uses of the light. White light represented normal conditions. Light red light represented good things, and light gray light represented danger. Mo Xiaobai had gained quite a lot by relying on the light red light. Apart from the gray stone grass at the beginning, there were also 2 stalks of blood sunflower, which could be used to concoct strength-increasing medicine. The value of the blood sunflower was even higher than the gray stone grass, and 1 stalk could be sold for 3 origin crystals. In total, he had obtained 8 origin crystals. To Mo Xiaobai, this could already be considered a great harvest. Of course, Mo Xiaobai had also found a few magical beasts through the light gray light. Unfortunately, these beasts didn't produce anything. Mo Xiaobai was a bit disappointed. Unranked magical beasts really weren't that good. For the whole day, Mo Xiaobai had only encountered these 3 colors of light. As for the other colors, Mo Xiaobai hadn't encountered them. He remembered that there were also red light, black light, and the like. Just as Mo Xiaobai was thinking, his body suddenly tensed up. All the hair on his body stood on end, and he abruptly jumped up from the rock. He opened his eyes wide and stared at the edge of a giant tree that was over 100 meters tall in the distance. There was a gray stone wolf about 1.5 meters tall at the shoulder. However, this gray stone wolf was somewhat different from an unranked gray stone wolf. Its forehead was covered by a gray stone, and its aura was much stronger than an unranked gray stone wolf. A rank 1 gray stone wolf. Most importantly, Mo Xiaobai discovered that this rank 1 gray stone wolf's body was entwined with strands of black light, so dark that it was somewhat oppressive. Mo Xiaobai looked at those cold and tyrannical green eyes, and cold sweat appeared on his forehead. He swallowed his saliva, feeling that his mouth was somewhat dry. He felt that he now knew what the black light represented. Chapter 6. The gray stone wolf lowered its body and bared its fangs as it slowly approached Mo Xiaobai. Mo Xiaobai's body tensed up as he stood still. Sweat slowly dripped from his forehead, and his breathing became somewhat sluggish. What the hell? He actually encountered a rank 1 gray stone wolf here. Awoo! The gray stone wolf growled. Its 4 powerful limbs stomped on the ground and turned into a gray shadow as it pounced toward Mo Xiaobai. Feeling the ferocious aura, Xiaobai's pupils contracted violently. He stomped his legs and threw himself to the side. Chi! The gray stone wolf's sharp claws swept past the spot where Mo Xiaobai had been standing, bringing about gusts of wind. The sharp wind pressure swept across Mo Xiaobai's body, making him feel somewhat breathless. After dodging the attack, he unleashed all his strength and ran toward the chaotic stone forest not far away. At the same time, a white signal gun appeared in his hand. Whoosh! The signal gun shot out a red beam of light that shot straight into the sky. On the top of a neighboring hill, Hong Shi saw the rising red light. His expression changed slightly. He stomped on the ground, and his slightly chubby body turned into an afterimage as he rushed toward the red light. He was extremely fast. Roar! Behind Emo Xiao Bai, the Greystone Wolf's roar came again. He didn't look back. Instead, he stomped on the ground and changed directions abruptly, moving several meters away. He glanced at the gray shadow from the corner of his eyes. Its sharp claws left a claw mark on the rock where he had been standing. Gravel flew everywhere. Emo Xiao Bai's scalp went numb as he watched. He didn't feel that his body was harder than the rock. He hurriedly continued to run. As long as he could hold on until Director Hong arrived, everything would be fine. He kept running along the stone forest, changing directions from time to time. He used the gravel and trees to block the Greystone Wolf's attacks and slow it down. Along the way, Emo Xiao Bai saw a greystone grass growing on a rock pillar. However, because the Greystone Wolf was chasing after him, he could only take a quick glance and run past it. Emo Xiao Bai's heart was bleeding. This was all money. In next to no time, Emo Xiao Bai dashed out of shattered stone forest and arrived at a small valley. Emo Xiao Bai's eyes quickly scanned the small valley, and his expression changed. This small valley was very flat, and there were no obstructions. It would be very difficult to dodge the Greystone Wolf's attacks. However, the Greystone Wolf behind him was closing in. Emo Xiao Bai had no time to think, and could only brace himself and charge in. Not long after they entered the valley, Emo Xiao Bai caught sight of an extremely dazzling red light from the corner of his eyes. He instinctively looked over. On the cliff of the small valley, Emo Xiao Bai discovered a very narrow crack. The crack was about the height of a person and the width of a person's side. At this moment, there were strands of dazzling red light floating in the crack. Such a red light, Emo Xiao Bai's eyes widened. Oh, before Emo Xiao Bai had time to think, he heard the Greystone Wolf's howl behind him. The hair on his back stood on end, and the strength in his legs burst out. He rushed to the edge of the crack and charged in. After charging into the crack, Emo Xiao Bai did not stop and continued to move in. After moving about a meter, a sharp wolf claw reached in from the crack and swept past Emo Xiao Bai's side. The claw shone with an icy cold light. Emo Xiao Bai looked at the wolf's claw that was close at hand, and cold sweat broke out on his forehead. Almost. He raised his head and looked out the crack. The Greystone Wolf's head was squeezed into the crack, and its pale green eyes flashed with a cold and brutal light. Its sharp claws kept digging, as if it wanted to squeeze in. However, the crack was too narrow. Emo Xiao Bai's slender body could squeeze in easily, but the Greystone Wolf's huge body could not squeeze in at all. Oh. The Greystone Wolf looked at the prey that was close at hand, but could not enjoy it. It could not help but roar angrily. Seeing that the Greystone Wolf could not get in, Emo Xiao Bai completely relaxed. He turned his head and looked around. The walls of the crack were covered with moss. Perhaps it was because there was no sunlight all year round, so it was a little damp. The air was also filled with the smell of moss and rotten mud. In his line of sight, there were dazzling red lights floating in the depths of the crack, as if telling him that there was something here. Emo Xiao Bai looked at the Greystone Wolf outside the crack again, and then moved deeper into the crack. After moving about 10 meters, he reached the end of the crack. The end of the crack was a rock wall, and there were no other passages around. All the red lights were wrapped around the rock wall he was facing, and there was an inconspicuous black rock. What was so special about this rock? Emo Xiao Bai looked at the dazzling red lines on the black rock and was a little puzzled. Then he reached out his hand to the black rock, intending to touch it. However, when Emo Xiao Bai's hand touched the black rock, ripples appeared in the surrounding space, as if a rock had been thrown into a lake. The ripples spread out to a radius of about 2 meters before slowly disappearing. Seeing this, Emo Xiao Bai opened his eyes wide, and his eyes were full of shock. This situation was very similar to the entrance to the Void Realm. Could there be another entrance or another space here? Emo Xiao Bai looked at the black rock and was a little hesitant. He was not sure what was inside. However, when Emo Xiao Bai saw the dazzling red lights, his eyes flashed, and he became determined. The gray light to the black light represented danger. The faint red light to the red light should represent an opportunity. Such a dazzling red light should represent a great opportunity, and there might be precious treasures inside. If he gave up just because of the unknown, he would be too cowardly. Mo Xiao Bai gritted his teeth and once again reached out to the black rock. After the ripples appeared, he took a step forward and passed through. Just like when he passed through the entrance to the Void Realm, Mo Xiao Bai felt his body go cold, and then the scene in front of him changed. At this moment, he was in a small stone space that was only 3 or 4 square meters in size. Behind him was a small silver door of light, which should be the entrance. However, Mo Xiao Bai did not care about this at this moment. His gaze was fixed on the ground in the center of the small space, and his breathing was somewhat hurried. His heart was beating so fast that he even felt some pain. There was a small pile of milky white oval-shaped crystals on the ground, and these were all origin crystals. The most important thing was not these origin crystals, but the 2 rhombus-shaped crystals on top of them. One of the rhombus-shaped crystals flashed with a blue light, which was a rare-grade origin crystal. As for the other one, it flashed with a dazzling golden light. Mo Xiao Bai's mind went blank when he saw the origin skill crystal flickering with golden light. He couldn't believe his eyes. A legendary grade origin crystal. Chapter 7. Looking at the small pile of origin crystals, a rare grade origin skill crystal, and a legendary grade origin skill crystal, Mo Xiao Bai felt that it was somewhat surreal. There were too many. Why were there so many treasures here? At this moment, a bolt of lightning flashed through Mo Xiao Bai's mind, and a thought surfaced. Void treasure trove. He recalled that he had read about this in the past. There were some areas in the void domain that had naturally formed treasure locations. These locations contained origin crystals, origin skill crystals, and even other treasures. Void treasures were usually hidden in extremely secretive locations and were difficult to find. However, there were some extremely lucky people who found void treasures by chance and obtained large amounts of treasures. Mo Xiao Bai looked at the small pile of items in front of him, and his heart began to beat rapidly. Could it be that he had actually found a void treasure trove? In such a secretive crack, and the entrance was an unremarkable black rock. Thinking about it this way, it was extremely likely that there really was a void treasure trove here. If it really was a void treasure trove, then it made sense that there were so many treasures here. However, Mo Xiao Bai's eyes widened very quickly as he thought of another problem. He had only found this void treasure trove under the guidance of the red ray of light. Could it be Mo Xiao Bai was so excited that his face flushed red? This red ray of light could actually find the location of a void treasure trove. If that was the case, then no matter which void domain he entered in the future, his chances of finding a void treasure trove would be much higher than others. As soon as he thought of the various high-grade origin skill crystals, extraordinary materials, equipment, origin crystals, etc., Mo Xiao Bai couldn't help but smile. He couldn't hide his smile no matter how hard he tried. This ray of light seemed to be quite incredible. He couldn't think too much about it. He had to pack up first. Inhale, exhale. Mo Xiao Bai tried his best to take a few deep breaths, calming his excited heart. Then he took 2 steps forward and arrived in front of the origin skill crystals and origin skill crystals. He first grabbed the legendary grade origin skill crystal and placed it on his forehead. The origin skill crystal was an extremely unique treasure. It recorded all sorts of ways to use origin power, which were also known as origin skills. Origin skill crystals were the same as many other rare materials and equipment. From low to high, they were divided into white normal grade, green elite grade, blue rare grade, purple rare grade, gold legendary grade, orange epic grade, red legendary grade, etc. The higher the grade of the origin skill crystal, the more powerful the origin skill recorded within. Moreover, there was a great benefit to using origin skill crystals, and that was that the degree of comprehension of the origin skill would directly increase to perfection. As long as one practiced diligently, they would be able to unleash the greatest effect of the origin skill in the shortest amount of time. On the other hand, if one were to learn from an origin skill book, one would need to slowly comprehend it bit by bit. Even a genius would need several months or even a year to fully comprehend an elite-grade origin skill. As for higher-grade origin skills, the amount of time needed would naturally increase exponentially. If he had an origin skill crystal to directly comprehend it, then it would be completely different. He would only need to spend a few days of practice to directly cultivate the origin skill to perfection. The difference was too great. Origin skill crystals had a very low chance of being produced, which was why origin skill crystals were so valuable. If a gold-grade legendary origin skill crystal were to be taken out, it would be enough to cause a commotion. After Mo Xiaobai placed the origin skill crystal on his forehead, and his mind came into contact with the origin skill crystal, streams of knowledge appeared in Mo Xiaobai's mind. This was an introduction to the legendary origin skill. After Mo Xiaobai finished reading the introduction, his eyes immediately widened. His eyes were filled with ecstasy. Elementary refining technique, flawless grade. Martial body fundamentalists used elementary refining techniques to cultivate from opening their primary acupoints to opening their third acupoint. Elementary refining techniques were further divided into low grade, mid grade, high grade, top grade, and the highest grade, flawless. The higher the grade of the refining technique, the better the effects. As for how big the difference was, Mo Xiaobai wasn't particularly clear. However, it had to be known that this morning, his parents had planned to use their savings to buy him a high-grade elementary refining technique. His parents had a small adventurer team and had some savings. Even buying a high-grade elementary refining technique would be difficult for them, let alone a flawless grade one. Mo Xiaobai had seen in some information that a flawless grade origin skill and other origin skills were two completely different concepts. Even a top-grade origin skill had a huge difference from a flawless grade origin skill. A flawless origin skill was the most perfect origin skill. Mo Xiaobai looked at the gold-grade origin skill crystal in his hand. His hands were slightly trembling. This surprise had come too suddenly. He was currently lacking in elementary refining technique, but he didn't expect to get a flawless grade one. Was this fate? Mo Xiaobai had already reached the peak of tempered body and was just short of opening his primary acupoint. Without any hesitation, he placed the origin skill crystal on his forehead again. This time, he directly used the origin skill crystal to absorb the knowledge related to the flawless elementary refining technique. Waves of information flowed from the origin skill crystal into Mo Xiaobai's brain. Because there was too much information, Mo Xiaobai even felt his brain swell and waves of intense pain spread out. He frowned, his face was pale, and sweat dripped down his forehead. He gritted his teeth and endured the intense pain. He didn't take off the origin skill crystal. If he took it off now, it wouldn't have any effect. Time seemed to have passed for a long time, but it also seemed like only a moment had passed. The origin skill crystal's information completely flowed into Mo Xiaobai's brain. As the origin skill crystal's information completely merged into his brain, the origin skill crystal that was originally shining with a golden light became transparent. Then, it shattered and turned into specks of light, disappearing into his hand. Mo Xiaobai also opened his eyes. He shook his throbbing head and glanced at his empty hand. He wasn't surprised at all. The origin skill crystal could only be used once. However, Mo Xiaobai had already completely grasped the flawless elementary refining techniques knowledge. Next, he only needed to go back and familiarize himself with it. Then he would be able to open his primary acupoint and become a one acupoint body fundamentalist. If he broke through the flawless elementary refining technique, his foundation would reach the most perfect level, right? Presumably, Dad and Mom would be shocked as well. Mo Xiaobai thought of what Mou had said in the morning and couldn't help but smile. He was looking forward to his father and mother's reactions when he went back and told them about this. As for now, Mo Xiaobai's gaze once again landed on the rare origin skill crystal that was shining with a blue light and the small pile of origin skill crystals. There was still a large pile of treasures waiting for him here. Mo Xiao Bai bent down to pick up the rare origin skill crystal and placed it on his forehead again. Chapter 8. After reading the origin skill crystal's description, Mo Xiao Bai opened his eyes. This was an attack-type origin skill called triple slash. Mo Xiao Bai had no way of knowing the exact effects of the origin skill. Unlike the origin refinement technique, an attack-type origin skill required origin power as a foundation. He hadn't opened his origin aperture yet, so naturally, he couldn't cultivate it without origin power. Mo Xiao Bai regretfully put the origin skill crystal into his spatial ring, then put away all the origin crystals as well. The milky white origin crystal had a golden pattern. This was a grade 1 origin crystal suitable for a 1 aperture body fundamentalist. It could be used to increase one's cultivation, restore origin power, or even charge some origin power devices. Origin crystals had a wide range of uses. They were the Azure Empire's hard currency. Mo Xiao Bai took a rough look and found that there were at least 200 origin crystals here. This was quite a fortune for him. He didn't count them, but he had been here for quite some time. He wondered if Director Hong had found him. He turned around and walked towards the door of light behind him. His vision blurred, and he found himself in the dusky crevice again. In front of him, the spatial fluctuations gradually calmed down, and the dazzling red light also gradually dimmed. After the red light turned white, Mo Xiao Bai reached out to touch the unremarkable black rock again. However, he found that there was no spatial door this time. His fingers touched the black rock directly. A cold and moist feeling came from his fingers. Mo Xiao Bai's eyes widened in surprise. This void treasure could only be opened once? A woo! Mo Xiao Bai's thoughts were interrupted by a roar not far away. He laughed in his heart. He had already gotten what he wanted. If the spatial door disappeared, then so be it. He moved a few meters away and looked outside the crevice. The Greystone Wolf was still pacing back and forth. Through the crevice, Mo Xiao Bai could see its cold green eyes. Director Hong hadn't arrived yet. Just as Mo Xiao Bai was thinking about this, a slightly plump figure appeared. Before the Greystone Wolf could react, a kick landed on its waist. The Greystone Wolf's body twisted strangely, and it flew away like a cannonball. It let out a miserable shriek. Then, Mo Xiao Bai heard the sound of something heavy falling to the ground. Hong Shi's chubby face moved closer to the crack. When he saw Mo Xiao Bai inside, he heaved a sigh of relief and smiled. "Come out, it's safe now." Mo Xiao Bai squeezed his way out of the crack. He glanced in the direction that the Greystone Wolf had flown out and discovered that the Greystone Wolf that had been chasing him had already turned into a corpse, lying quietly on the ground. Its waist bones were twisted, its eyes were protruding, and its mouth was wide open. Blood slowly flowed out of its mouth. It didn't look like it had died peacefully. Hong Shi glanced at the crack behind Mo Xiao Bai and praised with a smile. "This place is not bad. The Greystone Wolf can't enter. You're pretty smart." Mo Xiao Bai heard this and nodded with a smile. "Haha, I was lucky to find this place." Hong Shi nodded and glanced at the gradually darkening sky. "All right, let's stop here for today. It's more dangerous to be in the wilderness at night. Let's go find Lin Mingyu and Mengyu. Then we'll return to the station." Mo Xiao Bai nodded. "Okay." Hong Shi and Mo Xiao Bai walked out of the small valley and arrived at the Shattered Stone Forest. Mo Xiao Bai thought of something and said, "Director Hong, wait a moment." As he spoke, he ran in the direction of the greystone grass that he had discovered earlier. Mo Xiao Bai felt that he was a very thrifty man. Although he had gained a lot from the void treasure, no matter how small a mosquito's leg was, it was still meat. Hong Shi looked at Mo Xiao Bai with some confusion. "What's wrong?" Mo Xiao Bai came to the direction of a rock pillar where the faint red light was entangled. He found the greystone grass in the crack of the rock pillar. He plucked the greystone grass and explained happily, "When we were being chased by the Greystone Wolf, we saw a greystone grass here." Seeing the greystone grass in Mo Xiao Bai's hand, Hong Shi smiled with some surprise. "Kid, your eyes are quite sharp. It's usually very easy to miss the greystone grass that grows in the cracks of the rock pillars." Mo Xiaobai glanced at the fading faint red light and laughed embarrassedly. Ha ha, Director Hong, you're too kind. It's not that hard to find. Hong sure smiled. Did you find any other herbs? I'll take you to get them now. Mo Xiaobai shook his head. No. Hong sure nodded. Then let's go. Not long after, Hong Shi and Mo Xiaobai found Lin Mingyu in a forest. Lin Mingyu looked a bit haggard. Her delicate face had some bloodstains and some dust. There were also a few claw marks on her leather armor, but she wasn't injured. Afterwards, the three of them found Mingyu on another hill. Mingyu was a bit better off than Lin Mingyu. He didn't seem to have encountered any powerful magical beasts. In comparison, Mo Xiaobai was the most haggard. When he was dodging the first-rank Greystone Wolf's attack, his leather armor had also been scratched a few times. When he was squeezing through the cracks, he was also stained with a lot of dirt. Seeing Mo Xiaobai's haggard state, Lin Mingyu and Meng Yu were a bit surprised. After all, Mo Xiaobai was a bit stronger than the two of them. They didn't expect him to be in such a sorry state. On the way back to the encampment, Lin Mingyu and Meng Yu were relieved when they heard that Mo Xiaobai had encountered a first-rank Greystone Wolf. Meng Yu smiled and said, I didn't expect to encounter a first-rank magical beast. Xiaobai, your luck isn't too good. Mo Xiaobai nodded in agreement. That's right. Luckily, I ran fast. Otherwise, I would have been eaten. Lin Mingyu glanced at Meng Yu and raised her eyebrows. Seeing how happy you are, it seems like you found something. A trace of pride appeared on Meng Yu's face, and he said, Of course. As he spoke, he took out a piece of blood-stained gray fur from his spatial ring. There was a faint white light flickering on the fur. Normal-grade Greystone Wolf fur. It could be sold for an origin crystal, right? Lin Mingyu, what about you? Lin Mingyu took out two sharp wolf fangs that were flashing with white light. Two Greystone Wolf fangs. Not bad, right? Seeing this, Meng Yu nodded. Not bad indeed. Then, Lin Mingyu and Meng Yu both turned to look at Mo Xiaobai. Xiaobai, how was your harvest? Mo Xiaobai smiled as he took out 2 stalks of Greystone grass and 2 stalks of blood sunflower. I didn't find anything good, that's all. Lin Mingyu, Meng Yu, the atmosphere became silent. The two of them looked at the Greystone grass and blood sunflower in Mo Xiaobai's hands, their eyes wide open and their faces full of disbelief. Even Hong Shi on the side looked at Mo Xiaobai in surprise and said, Xiaobai, your luck is not bad. You found 4 stalks of herbs. He glanced at the herbs in Mo Xiaobai's hands and estimated the price. A stalk of Greystone grass with 2 leaves is worth 2 origin crystals, and a stalk of Greystone grass with 3 leaves can be sold for 3 origin crystals. With the 2 stalks of blood sunflower, you can sell them for a total of 11 origin crystals. 11 origin crystals? Meng Yu shouted, his expression as if he had eaten a lemon. You call this not finding anything good? Lin Mingyu looked at Mo Xiaobai. Could it be that your luck is actually very good? Mo Xiaobai hurriedly waved his hand. How is that possible? That's just your imagination. If my luck was good, I wouldn't have been chased by a rank 1 Greystone Wolf. Today was just an accident. I probably won't find so much tomorrow. I probably won't find the void treasure tomorrow. Mo Xiaobai silently added in his heart. Chapter 9. Adventurer's Encampment. Hong Shi and Mo Xiaobai walked out of the potion shop. Mo Xiaobai had just sold the 4 herbs and obtained 11 origin crystals. His face was full of smiles. Meng Yu and Lin Mingyu beside him were somewhat dejected. Although they also had some gains, compared to Mo Xiaobai's, the difference was a bit too big. Hong Shi opened his mouth and said, All right, let's rest in the encampment for the night. Tomorrow, we'll continue outside. He brought Mo Xiaobai's group to the residential area and booked 2 rooms. Hong Shi, Mo Xiaobai, and Meng Yu squeezed into 1 room. Lin Mingyu was a girl after all, so it wasn't convenient for her to share a room with them. Hong Shi prepared a small room for her alone. Mo Xiaobai's group's room was very small. There were 3 small white beds placed next to each other in the room, and there was only space left for them to stand. There wasn't even a table or a chair. However, the price was very cheap. They spent the entire day either searching for herbs or fighting with magical beasts. In the end, They were even chased by a rank 1 gray stone wolf. Mo Xiaobai was already very tired. After lying down on the bed, he closed his eyes and fell asleep. The next morning, Mo Xiaobai's group woke up, ate some food, and continued out of the encampment. On the way, Mengyu and Lin Mingyu glanced at Mo Xiaobai from time to time. Mo Xiaobai felt a headache coming on. He sighed and said, "I think I'm done for today. I definitely won't get much." Mengyu asked with a bit of surprise, "Why do you think so?" Lin Mingyu also opened her mouth and said, "I think you'll definitely gain a lot. You found 4 spiritual herbs yesterday." Mo Xiaobai explained with a serious face, "Think about it. Yesterday's luck was so good. How can it be maintained every day? Today's luck definitely won't be as good as yesterday's." "Really?" Mengyu and Lin Mingyu's faces were full of suspicion. Mo Xiaobai nodded with certainty. Mengyu and Lin Mingyu also nodded. The two of them seemed to be relieved. After that, Mengyu and Lin Mingyu stopped glancing at Mo Xiaobai from time to time. Mo Xiaobai also let out a sigh of relief. Just like yesterday, they came to an uninhabited hill. Hong Shi let Mo Xiaobai and the other two enter the mountain by themselves. Mo Xiaobai entered the mountain from a valley, while Mengyu and Lin Mingyu entered from other places. After yesterday's test, Mo Xiaobai had a general understanding of the light around him. Red light meant there was a treasure. The redder the light, the more precious the treasure. Just like the void treasure and the gray rock grass, there was a huge difference between the red light around them. Black and gray light represented danger. The darker the light, the more dangerous it was. The one aperture gray rock wolf from yesterday was indeed a huge threat to Mo Xiaobai. The light around it was also frighteningly dark. After familiarizing himself with the light, Mo Xiaobai stopped looking for treasures. Instead, he quickly ran around the hill and observed the changes in the light around him. Every time a faint red light appeared, Mo Xiaobai would run over and search carefully. He would collect the herbs in the light. If a faint gray light appeared, Mo Xiaobai would be able to prepare in advance. It would be easier for him to deal with the danger. The range of the light was about 50 meters. If Mo Xiaobai discovered the gray light when it appeared at the edge, he could even choose to avoid it. This saved him a lot of trouble along the way. Mo Xiaobai ran around the hill like the wind for the entire morning. From one hill to another, from one valley to another, he naturally found a lot of herbs. Only when the sun shone brightly on the hill did Mo Xiaobai feel a little tired and stop his footsteps. He found a good spot on the top of the hill and sat down. He planned to rest for a while and count his harvest. There were a total of 3 stalks of gray rock grass. 2 of them had 2 leaves, and 1 had 4 leaves. A 2-leaf gray rock grass was worth 2 origin crystals. A 4-leaf gray rock grass was worth more and could be sold for 5 origin crystals. There were a total of 9 origin crystals here. There were also 4 stalks of blood sunflowers, which could be sold for 12 origin crystals. In just one morning, Mo Xiaobai had obtained 21 origin crystals. The corners of his mouth curled up into a smile. Then he sighed again. The western district was too barren. He had run through more than 10 hills in one morning and only found 7 spirit herbs. On average, there might not even be 1 spirit herb per hill. If it was in other areas, wouldn't the harvest be even more? Mo Xiaobai decided to wait until he broke through before going to other areas to search for good stuff. After resting for a while, Mo Xiaobai stood up and planned to continue searching for herbs. He walked down the hill along the grassy slope. When he was halfway up the hill, he turned his head and looked at the bottom left. There was a strange phenomenon in the weeds that were as tall as a person at the bottom left. He discovered that the pale gray light and the pale red light were entwined together and appeared in the same area. Just when Mo Xiaobai was puzzled, something seemed to move in the weeds. The weeds fled to the sides, making rustling sounds. And when something moved in the weeds, the entwined pale gray light and the pale red light also moved. Mo Xiaobai held his sword in his right hand and looked cautiously in the direction of the weeds. The weeds parted, and a gray wild boar that was over 1.5 meters tall appeared in Mo Xiaobai's line of sight. The wild boar had 30-centimeter-long white teeth that were as sharp as daggers. Its gray fur looked extremely coarse and thick. Its dark red eyes were fixed on Mo Xiao Bai, and its eyes flashed with murderous intent. A gray stone wild boar. Mo Xiao Bai held the fine iron longsword with both hands, and his body tensed up. Awoo! Amidst the low and fierce roar, the gray stone wild boar's 4 limbs stomped on the ground. Its huge body galloped and turned into a gray shadow, charging towards Mo Xiao Bai. Around it, pale gray and pale red light entwined. Mo Xiao Bai's expression was calm. He focused on the rapidly approaching gray stone wild boar. When the gray stone wild boar was 1 meter away from him, Mo Xiao Bai took a step and leaned to the right. The gray stone wild boar's sharp teeth sliced across Mo Xiao Bai's chest. Mo Xiao Bai's longsword was already in his right hand, and a cold white light flashed in the air. Chi! The fine iron longsword sliced through the gray stone wild boar's dark red eyes, and blood splattered everywhere. Awoo! The gray stone wild boar let out a miserable cry. Its huge head tilted, and its charging steps were disrupted. It lost its balance and fell heavily to the ground. Its skin was cut by the gravel on the ground, and it was dripping with blood. Mo Xiao Bai didn't expect the gray stone wild boar to fall to the ground. He couldn't help but be stunned. But after being stunned for a moment, he quickly came back to his senses. While the gray stone wild boar was still struggling to stand up, he took 2 steps in front of it and stabbed out with his longsword. Chi! The sharp tip of the sword pierced through the gray stone wild boar's bleeding eyes and pierced through its head. The gray stone wild boar's 4 limbs twitched, and it lost all signs of life. Mo Xiao Bai pulled out his longsword and shook off the blood. When he lowered his head to look at the gray stone wild boar's corpse, his eyes widened. He saw a very strange scene. The gray stone wild boar's huge corpse on the ground began to shrink. Its flesh and blood became dry, and the pair of white teeth flashed with a pale white light. Finally, the white teeth fell out of the gray stone wild boar's mouth. Mo Xiao Bai looked at the gray stone wild boar's teeth flashing with a pale white light and revealed a pleasantly surprised smile. He didn't expect it to be a transcendent material. Chapter 10. Mo Xiao Bai bent down and picked up the gray stone boar's tusk that was glowing with a white light. After the death of some magical beasts, the power in their flesh and blood would gather in a certain part of their body, forming some unusual origin power materials. The origin power equipment used by martial fundamentalists were all made from these extraordinary materials. By activating and amplifying the special characteristics of the extraordinary materials, the origin power equipment could greatly enhance the user's strength. Although extraordinary materials weren't as rare as origin skill crystals, they were still very useful and had their own value. For example, the Greystone Wolf's pelt that Mengyu obtained yesterday and the Greystone Wolf's tusk that Lin Mingyu obtained yesterday were both extraordinary materials, which was why they could be sold for such a high price. The price of the Greystone Boar's tusk that Mo Xiao Bai obtained should be about the same as the Greystone Wolf's tusk, but it was a bit bigger. Perhaps it could be sold for 2 origin power crystals? Mo Xiao Bai wasn't very sure. Although the price was about the same as a stalk of greystone grass, this was the first time in his life that Mo Xiao Bai had seen an extraordinary material come out of a magical beast he killed. He was very excited. No matter what it was, the first time was always very exciting. After putting away the Greystone Boar's tusk, Mo Xiao Bai glanced at the fading faint red and faint gray light above the Greystone Boar's corpse and revealed an expression of understanding. The faint gray light represented the Greystone Boar, and the faint red light represented the Greystone Boar's extraordinary material. Mo Xiao Bai had a new understanding of the light around him. He didn't expect that this thing could even analyze the extraordinary material coming out of a magical beast body. It was much more powerful than he had imagined. Who knew what new surprises this light would bring him in the future? A trace of anticipation flashed through Mo Xiao Bai's eyes. Then, Mo Xiao Bai set out once again to search for treasures. In the distance, the azure blue sky had a few hints of orange gold. The originally scorching temperature had dropped, and the wind blowing through the hills had also become a bit cooler. After searching another mountain, Mo Xiaobai looked at the gradually darkening sky in the distance and began to walk back. Although he was a bit reluctant, the elite trial only lasted for 2 days. They would be leaving soon. Not long after, Mo Xiaobai found Hong Shi, Meng Yu, and Lin Mingyu on a slope near the wilderness. Today, Meng Yu and Lin Mingyu seemed to be more used to adventuring in the Greystone Hills compared to yesterday. They weren't in such a sorry state compared to yesterday. In fact, it was the same for Mo Xiaobai. Today, he wasn't being chased by a greystone wolf, nor did he need to hide in some crack in the rock wall. Of course, he didn't find any treasures. There were gains and there were losses. Seeing Mo Xiaobai come over, Hong Shi smiled and said, "All right, since everyone is here, let's go back." Yes. Meng Yu and Lin Mingyu's faces were filled with regret and reluctance. They took one last look at the hills. After walking out of the hills, Mo Xiaobai saw the adventurers' encampment a few kilometers away. Under the evening sun, the black city walls looked majestic and heavy. Meng Yu thought of something and said with a smile, "Xiaobai, how was your harvest today?" Lin Mingyu also looked over. Even Hong Shi looked curiously at Mo Xiaobai. Probably because of yesterday, Mo Xiaobai's harvest was quite good. Mo Xiaobai heard Meng Yu's words, and the smile on his face froze. He coughed dryly and said, "Ahem, it was so. What did he find this afternoon?" Mo Xiaobai didn't even count carefully. However, it shouldn't be a problem to sell it for 40 or 50 origin crystals, right? Seeing Mo Xiaobai's awkward expression, Lin Mingyu smiled and comforted him. "After all, you found so many herbs yesterday. It doesn't matter if your harvest is a little less today." Mingyu nodded as well. "You've already surpassed the two of us in 2 days in just 1 day." Hearing the two's comforting words, Mo Xiaobai was stunned and didn't know how to respond. He thought for a moment and changed the topic. "How was your harvest today?" Mingyu chuckled. "We're more skilled today than yesterday. Our efficiency is also higher. We found a stalk of ashrock grass and also obtained 2 ashrock wolf fangs." Lin Mingyu smiled and said, "I found a blood sunflower and an ashrock grass. Our harvest wasn't bad either." The two's faces were full of happy smiles. Hong Shi listened to their conversation and said with satisfaction, "The resources in the western region are relatively poor. It's not bad that you guys were able to find so many herbs. After you sell these herbs, you can buy some body-refining medicine for the final push. Strive to break through to a martial fundamentalist within a month. Only then can you guarantee to enter the top 100 academies." Yes, Mo Xiaobai and the other two nodded seriously when they heard Hong Shi's words. The students in the top 100 academies of the Azure Empire were all geniuses of the Azure Empire. If they could enter the top 100 academies and graduate successfully, they would at least have a 2-chakra cultivation base. If their results were outstanding, they could even break through to 3-chakra. In a small town like Pingxi Town with a population of more than 2 million people, this kind of strength would be considered a decent powerhouse. They would also be able to obtain a decent status and income. Even Director Hong was only a 2-chakra powerhouse. In other words, as long as they could graduate from the top 100 academies, they would be Director Hong. They might even be able to settle down in those big cities. The three of them had longing expressions on their faces. They were all young people. Which one of them didn't yearn for a bustling city? "All right, Director Hong, what cultivation base do we need to enter the big 3 famous schools?" Lin Mingyu asked curiously. The big 3 famous schools. Hong Shi was stunned for a moment. Then he smiled and said, "You guys still want to enter the big 3 famous schools? Hee, let's find out more." Mingyu scratched his short silver hair. Hong Shi smiled and said, "If you guys can break through to 1 chakra level 5 before the college entrance exams, there might be some hope of entering the big 3 famous schools." Meng Yu and Lin Mingyu widened their eyes and gasped when they heard Hong Shi's words. Meng Yu couldn't help but say, "Reaching 1 chakra level 5 before the college entrance exams? Is he still human?" Lin Mingyu nodded in agreement. Hong Shi smiled and said, "No matter how strong you are, there will always be someone stronger than you. Other towns aside, There are 1,443 cities in the three major districts of the Azure Empire. Which city isn't bigger than our Pingxi town? There are too many geniuses like you guys, or even stronger than you guys. He paused for a moment and said, maybe someone can break through to 2-chakra level before the college entrance exams. This time, even Mo Xiaobai sucked in a breath of cold air. Is this really human? Meng Yu and Lin Mingyu nodded at the side. Hong Shi laughed. However, you guys don't have to belittle yourselves. After all, different regions have different resources. If you guys can get into the top 100, you won't be any worse than those geniuses from the big cities. Meng Yu and Lin Mingyu nodded. Meng Yu chuckled. Forget about the big 3 famous schools. Focus on getting into the top 100. Lin Mingyu nodded. Okay. Mo Xiaobai's eyes flickered slightly. 1 chakra, level 5 He. He had obtained the flawless beginner refinement technique. He wondered if he could break through to this level in a month's time. Maybe there was hope for the big 3 famous schools. Chapter 11. After returning to the encampment, Hong Shi brought Mo Xiaobai and the others to the potion shop. The potion shop was about 100 square meters in size. There were rows of counters, and all kinds of potions were displayed on the counters. This included stone skin potion made from limestone grass, strength potion made from blood sunflower, and so on. At this moment, there were groups of adventurers browsing the shop. From time to time, some adventurers would call the attendants to buy a few bottles of potions in case of emergency. Hong Shi brought Mo Xiaobai and the others in through a small door at the side of the shop. Behind the small door was a room of about 50 square meters. There were rows of long chairs in the room, and there were a few counters inside. Behind the counters, there were a few appraisers in green uniforms sitting. One of the counters was empty, so Hong Shi brought Mo Xiaobai and the others over. The appraiser behind the counter was a rabbit-human woman with a hot body. She nodded slightly at them. What kind of herbs are you selling? Hong Shi glanced at Meng Yu, who didn't know where to look. Meng Yu hurriedly went forward, took out the limestone grass he found today, and handed it over. The rabbit-human woman took the limestone grass, glanced at it, and put it away, 2 pieces of origin crystal. She took out 2 pieces of origin crystal and handed them to Meng Yu. Meng Yu took the origin crystal and smiled. Then, Lin Mingyu also walked up and took out the blood sunflower and limestone grass she found. Just like before, the rabbit-human appraiser glanced at them. 5 pieces of origin crystal. Lin Mingyu happily took the origin crystal. Hong Shi glanced at Mo Xiaobai and smiled. Xiaobai, do you have any herbs you want to sell? Feeling Meng Yu and Lin Mingyu's gaze, Mo Xiaobai laughed dryly and nodded a little. Then take them out too. Mo Xiaobai nodded and silently took out a pile of herbs and placed them on the counter. 7 gray rock grass and 6 blood sunflowers. Meng Yu. Lin Mingyu. Meng Yu and Lin Mingyu's eyes widened when they saw the gray rock grass and bloody sunflower on the counter. Then, they turned to look at Mo Xiaobai. They looked as if they had been cheated by Mo Xiaobai and were filled with resentment. You call this average? This was called a little herbal medicine. The two suddenly felt that the world was full of lies. Even Hong Shi was stunned. He gave Mo Xiaobai a strange look and said, You found so many? Mo Xiaobai looked at Meng Yu and Lin Mingyu's resentful eyes and smiled. Yes, we found it after walking for a while. Meng Yu, Lin Mingyu, the two fell into silence. They looked as if they had nothing to live for and didn't want to talk anymore. Hong Shi's mouth twitched, but he didn't say anything. Meanwhile, the rabbit man appraiser had finished looking through the herbs. 2 4-leaved gray rock grass, 5 2-leaved gray rock grass, 6 blood sunflowers, a total of 38 force crystals. The rabbit man appraiser put away the herbs and took out a handful of force crystals to give to Mo Xiaobai. Mo Xiaobai took the force crystals with a smile. The rabbit man appraiser looked at Mo Xiaobai again. She knew that they were only in the refinement realm. They probably went to the Western District. It was rare to find so many herbs in the Western District. After Mo Xiaobai put away the force crystals, Hong Shi smiled and said, All right, let's go. They walked out of the herb room in silence and went to the store. Lin Mingyu looked at Mo Xiao Bai with a resentful expression. Xiao Bai, you cheated me of my feelings. There was some noise on the side, and the nearby adventurers all looked over curiously. When they saw Lin Mingyu and Mo Xiao Bai, they looked like they were waiting for a good show. Mo Xiao Bai, feeling the gazes of the adventurers nearby, Mo Xiao Bai had a bad feeling. He was about to say something when Mingyu also looked at Mo Xiao Bai with a resentful expression. Me too, the adventurers nearby. They looked at Mo Xiao Bai's group with strange expressions. Mo Xiao Bai, Hongsher felt the gazes of the adventurers nearby and couldn't help but blush. He coughed dryly and reprimanded. What nonsense are you talking about? Let's go to the equipment store. Mo Xiao Bai lowered his head and followed behind Hongsher. After they walked out of the store, he could faintly hear people exclaiming from inside. Are the youngsters nowadays so open? We're already old. Mo Xiao Bai. He even had the urge to die. Lin Mingyu and Mingyu on the side were also red with embarrassment. It was obvious that the two of them also heard the exclamations from inside. Hongsher led Mo Xiao Bai's group of 3 away from the troublesome place and went to the equipment store to sell their equipment. Mingyu sold his 2 gray stone wolf fangs and obtained 2 origin crystals. Mo Xiao Bai also took out the transcendent materials he had obtained, 2 gray stone boar teeth and a gray stone wolf pelt. The 2 gray stone boar fangs were sold for 3 origin crystals, and the wolf pelt was sold for 1 origin crystal. There were a total of 4 origin crystals. After the shock of the herbs, Hongsher's group even felt that Mo Xiao Bai's harvest was a bit too little. After the 3 of them came back to their senses, they began to deeply reflect on themselves. Was there something wrong with them? Mo Xiao Bai, on the other hand, was very happy. In total, he had obtained 42 origin crystals today. He was already very satisfied. After leaving the equipment store, Hongsher smiled and said, "All right, this time's elite trial ends here." His gaze swept over Mo Xiao Bai's group and nodded with satisfaction. I have to say your strength is not bad. This time's harvest is also quite satisfactory. However, this is still not enough. In the next month, you guys still have to work hard. Oh, isn't this Hongsher? Before Hongsher could finish speaking, a sharp voice came from behind him. After being interrupted, Hongsher frowned and turned to look behind him. Mo Xiao Bai's group also looked in the direction of the voice. In that direction stood a tall and thin merman with an aquiline nose and a protruding forehead. He had a head of short, seaweed green hair. At this moment, this merman looked at Hongsher with a faint smile on his face. However, there was no trace of a smile in his orange-red eyes. It really is Hongsher. What a coincidence! How do we meet you here? After Hongsher saw this merman, his frown deepened. Lu Gaoxian, why are you here? As he spoke, his gaze swept over behind Lu Gaoxian. There were 5 young men and women about the same age as Mo Xiao Bai's group standing there. While Hongsher was looking behind Lu Gaoxian also swept his gaze over Mo Xiao Bai's group. After seeing Mo Xiao Bai's group's cultivation, he narrowed his eyes slightly and his smile deepened. Hongsher, what are you saying? Did you guys learn this void domain from Moonlight High School? Only Moonlight High School is allowed to come here, but Shuyang High School can't? Chapter 12. Shuyang High School. Mo Xiao Bai's pupils constricted when he heard Lu Gaoxuan's words. He looked at the 5 boys and girls standing behind Lu Gaoxian. They were about the same age as them. 2 night creatures, 1 human, 1 elf, and 1 barbarian. At this moment, the 5 from Shuyang High School were also looking at Mo Xiao Bai and the other 2. The corners of their mouths curled up. The smiles on their faces were somewhat similar to Lu Gaoxuan's. Lu Gaoxian glanced at Mo Xiao Bai and the other 2 and smiled. They're the geniuses from your school this year? Not bad. This little guy is already at the peak of physique refinement. Lu Gaoxian looked at Mo Xiao Bai. However, Li Yushu from our school just broke through to become a body fundamentalist. Looks like the top scorer this time is from Shuyang High School again. Behind Lu Gaoxian, a handsome night creature youth glanced at Mo Xiao Bai and the others before looking away. His eyes were filled with arrogance. Hongsher glanced at Liu Shu and said slowly, "There's still a month before the college entrance exam. Who knows what the results will be until the end?" "Ha, is that so?" Lu Gaoxian was stunned. Then he smiled and said, "Then we'll see during the college entrance exam." Hongsher snorted and said, "We're going back. Help yourselves." With that, he stopped looking at Lu Gaoxian and said to Mo Xiaobai and the other two, "Let's go." Hongsher led Mo Xiaobai and the other two and walked past Lu Gaoxian and the others. They walked towards the square. After taking a few steps, Mo Xiaobai vaguely heard disdainful laughter behind him. After leaving Lu Gaoxian and the others, Meng Yu said with an ugly expression, "The people from Shiyang High School are so disgusting. Their eyes are so big that they want to grow into the sky." Looking at his expression, it was as if he had just seen a pile of non-degradable garbage. Mo Xiaobai and Lin Mingyu also nodded in agreement. Hongsher's face darkened as he slowly said, "But they have the ability to do so. They have been a high school with the best college entrance examination results in Pingxi Town for 5 consecutive years. This year, they even produced a martial fundamentalist." However, Hongsher's chubby face trembled. "I've just become a body fundamentalist. It's not impossible for me to surpass it. The three of you have to work hard. This is not only for our school, but also for yourselves. If you can become the top scorer in Pingxi Town, not only will our school reward you, but our town's education department will also reward you." Mo Xiaobai and the other two nodded seriously. "Understood, Director Hong." Mo Xiaobai held his breath. He hated Liu Shu's arrogant look. He asked curiously, "Director Hong, what are the rewards for being the top scorer?" Hongsher replied with a smile, "Our school will reward you with 500 pieces of rank 1 origin crystals. The town rewards different things every year. Origin equipment, origin crystals, and so on are all possible, but they'll definitely be good stuff." Mo Xiaobai was looking forward to it. With the flawless elementary refining technique he had obtained, it shouldn't be a problem for him to become the top scorer, right? As they spoke, they returned to the central plaza of the adventurers' encampment and passed through the portal of light. Mo Xiaobai and the other two were already mentally prepared for the second time they passed through the portal of light, so they were no longer nervous. They didn't need to pay when they left the void domain. Hongsher handed the white token to the staff, and they successfully walked out of the enclosure. Lin Mingyu and Meng Yu used the origin crystals they had obtained from the Greystone Hills to buy body refining medicine at the Adventurer Center to speed up the process of refining their bodies. Mo Xiaobai was already at the peak of body refining and had also obtained elementary refining technique. He planned to keep the origin crystals he had obtained for cultivation. After Lin Mingyu and Meng Yu finished shopping, Hongsher led them out of the Adventurer Center. Moonlight Middle School's school bus was already waiting for them outside. Because the sky was gradually darkening, school had already ended. After they got on the school bus, Hongsher ordered the driver to send Mo Xiaobai and the other two home. Along the way, Mo Xiaobai and the other two were excitedly discussing the void domain and the college entrance exam. When they talked about the college entrance exam, they couldn't help but mention the people from Shiyang Middle School. Lin Mingyu said, unhappily, "I really hope those guys with eyes on their heads get seriously injured when they encounter a big guy and have to lie in the hospital for a month." And Mo Xiaobai, he stared at Lin Mingyu with wide eyes. "So vicious, but I like it." Mingyu silently moved his butt away from Lin Mingyu. The school bus quickly stopped at the entrance of Mo Xiaobai's neighborhood. "Xiaobai, see you tomorrow." Lin Mingyu and Meng Yu said goodbye to Mo Xiaobai. Mo Xiaobai also waved at them and got off the school bus. At this moment, the sky had already turned dark green. Even the last trace of orange-red light on the horizon was swallowed by the darkness. Mo Xiaobai entered the neighborhood and walked on the small road. He bumped into Ning Feng and the 3 security team members walking towards him. After seeing Mo Xiaobai, Ning Feng revealed a bright smile. "Xiaobai, you're back? I heard from Brother Mo that you went to participate in your school's elite trial." Mo Xiaobai smiled and nodded. "Yes, Uncle Ning. I just came out of the Void Realm." Ningfeng nodded and patted Mo Xiaobai's shoulder. Not bad, not bad. You're much better than your Uncle Ning. I only went to the Void Realm for the first time in my second year of university. Mo Xiaobai smiled embarrassedly. It's okay. Uncle Ning, are you guys patrolling? Ningfeng nodded and frowned slightly. Didn't someone get killed last time? So we need to be more vigilant. Mo Xiaobai recalled the photo in Mo's newspaper yesterday morning and nodded silently. Ningfeng smiled and continued. Okay, you just came back from the Void Realm. You should be tired. Go back and rest. Okay, then I'll go back first. Goodbye, Uncle Ning. Mo Xiaobai waved at Ningfeng and jogged away. Ningfeng and the three security team members looked at Mo Xiaobai's back as he left. One of the younger security team members said with some envy, Young Master Mo, you're so young. One of the security team members said with envy, Captain Ning, is that Captain Mo's kid? He entered the Void Realm at such a young age? That's amazing. He's going to become a body fundamentalist soon. Like father, like son. Captain Mo is a three-apertured strong man. I heard that Captain Mo's kid has been working hard. He gets up before dawn to train his body. Plus, he inherited Captain Mo's talent. It's normal for him to have such strength. While the three security team members were discussing, Ningfeng waved his hand and said, Okay, let's continue patrolling. When Mo Xiaobai returned home, Mo Yu and Mu Yuzhu were already waiting for him. As soon as he opened the door, a red shadow flashed by. Little Red stuck to him and rubbed her head against him. She was so strong that she almost pushed him over. He pushed Little Red's head and said, Little Red, are you a dog? Remember that you're a snake. Hiss, hiss, Little Red was even more excited. Mu Yuzhu smiled and said, You're back? Wash your hands and have dinner first. Returning to the familiar home, Mo Xiaobai's mood immediately relaxed. After answering, Mo Xiaobai went to the bathroom while dealing with Little Red. When Mo Xiaobai came back from washing his hands, Mo Yu asked, How was it? Did you get anything from your first trip to the Void Realm? Mu Yuzhu also turned to look at Mo Xiaobai with a curious expression. Chapter 13. Seeing Mo Yu and Mu Yuzhu's curious expressions, Mo Xiaobai revealed a mysterious smile. Dad, you don't have to buy elementary refining techniques anymore. What? Mo Yu was stunned. He frowned and looked at Mo Xiaobai. Why not? Mo Xiaobai cleared his throat seriously and said, My luck is not bad. I found an origin skill crystal for elementary origin refining in the Greystone Hills. Mo Yu and Mu Yuzhu were stunned. They stared at Mo Xiaobai with their eyes wide open. Mu Yuzhu smiled and said, Really? You found an origin crystal on your first time in the Void Domain? Old Mo, your son's luck is not bad. Mo Yu also nodded with a satisfied expression. That's right. Look at whose son you are. Then, he continued, But Little White, we're planning to buy you high-grade beginner alchemy techniques. Did you find a high-grade one? Mo Xiaobai smiled shyly. It's flawless. Oh, flawless? That's not bad. What? Flawless? Cough, 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 cough. Mo Yu trembled. He couldn't catch his breath and coughed violently a few times. His eyes were as wide as light bulbs as he stared at Mo Xiaobai. Mu Yuzhu's face was also red. Her breathing was rapid. She looked at Mo Xiaobai in disbelief. Little Xiaobai, what great elementary refining technique did you say you found? Mu Yuzhu didn't realize that her voice was trembling. Mo Xiaobai saw how nervous Mo Yu and Mu Yuzhu were and didn't want to tease them anymore. He hurriedly said in a serious tone, Dad, Mom, I found a flawless grade origin refining origin skill crystal. You didn't hear wrong. Mo Yu, Mu Yuzhu, the atmosphere fell into silence. After receiving Mo Xiaobai's confirmation, the two of them looked at each other. Their eyes were filled with confusion, as if they had not completely accepted this reality. After a moment of silence, Mo Yu said somewhat doubtfully, That's not right. Flawless elementary origin refining techniques should at least require a rare origin skill crystal, right? Greystone Hills is just an ordinary Tier 1 void domain. How could there be an origin skill crystal of this level? Mu Yuzhu also nodded her head. That's right. A rare origin skill crystal can only be found in a difficult void domain, Both of them were experienced adventurers, but now they felt that their worldview had been impacted. Mo Xiao by explained cough. Mom and Dad, the flawless elementary origin refining technique is a legendary grade origin skill crystal. I obtained this origin skill crystal because I found a void treasure trove. Muyu, legendary origin skill crystals void treasure trove. Mu opened her mouth and looked at Mo Xiao by as if she had seen a ghost. Void treasure trove. That kind of void treasure trove with many treasures. Mo Xiao by nodded. That's right, that kind of void treasure trove. Mu Yuju's mouth twitched. You actually found a void treasure trove in an ordinary tier 1 void domain. Mo Xiao by nodded again. Is there a problem? Mo looked at Mo Xiao by. What kind of dog's hit luck did you run into? Mo Xiao by. He opened his eyes wide and looked at Mo in disbelief. Who would talk about their own son like that? He was unhappy. I've clearly been blessed by the goddess of luck. The atmosphere fell silent again. Mo and Mu Yuju continuously took deep breaths, trying hard to accept the shocking news that Mo Xiao by had just said. The two of them had seen the world, so they quickly calmed down. Mo patted Mo Xiao bai's hand and smiled brightly. Not bad, not bad. With the flawless elementary origin refining technique. As long as you work hard, you'll definitely become a powerhouse in the future. At the very least, you'll be 6 or even 7 apertures. Mu Yuju nodded, and Mo Xiaobai smiled and said, apart from this legendary origin skill crystal, there's also a rare grade offensive origin skill. And Mo Xiaobai told them about the things he had found in the void treasure trove. Then, under MOU and Mu Yuju's request, he also told them about his experience and how he had found the void treasure trove. Mo Xiaobai didn't say anything about the strange light around him, but he told them everything else. When they heard that Mo Xiaobai had been chased by a Tier 1 Greystone Wolf and had actually found a void treasure trove after hiding in a crack, MOU and Mu Yuju couldn't help but laugh. Misfortune and fortune come hand in hand. MOU sighed. As for the triple/origin skill crystal, you can cultivate it after you break through to become a martial fundamentalist. Mu Yuju nodded. Triple/ is a very powerful offensive origin skill and is very suitable for you. With this origin skill, you won't have to worry about lacking offensive methods for a short period of time. Since you already have the flawless elementary origin refining technique, there's no time to lose. Prepare to break through now. It might take some time to sense and open the origin acupoints. I'll ask for leave from your homeroom teacher for the next few days. You should cultivate well at home. Mo Xiaobai nodded seriously. Okay, he wanted to become Pingxi Town's top scorer, and it would be best if he could get into the Big Three. However, he only kept this goal in his heart and didn't say it out loud. Let's eat, take a bath after dinner, and have a good night's rest. Then, prepare to break through. During dinner, Mou drank a few more cups of his treasured wine. Even Mu Yuju drank a few cups with him. After dinner, Mo Xiaobai was chased away by Mou and Mu Yuju to take a bath and sleep. Mou and Mu Yuju cleaned up the dishes. Mou couldn't help but chuckle. Mu Yuju glanced at him. What are you giggling about? Mou was beaming with joy. Even the claw marks on his face seemed to be shining. Our son is going to have a bright future. Mu Yuju's lips also curled up. She rolled her eyes at Mou. Do I need you to tell me that? Our son is so outstanding. Even if he doesn't find this void treasure, he'll definitely be able to get into a good school. Go take a bath after you're done cleaning up. You reek of alcohol. Mo Xiaobai's room was very simple. There was a single bed made of black paulownia wood in the corner and a desk made of red fir wood by the window. Beside the desk was a small bookshelf with some books on it. There was a wardrobe on the opposite side of the bed. The entire room was very tidy. After Mo Xiaobai returned to his room, he lay on the bed and tossed and turned. However, he couldn't fall asleep no matter what. Moonlight shone into the room through the window, dyeing the room with a faint layer of silver. Mo Xiaobai opened his eyes and stared at the ceiling in a daze. Around him, white rays of light floated. Mo Xiaobai didn't know what these rays of light were, but he was sure that these rays of light were the greatest opportunity for him. He thought about the white rays of light, then his experience in the Greystone Hills. Then he thought about the college entrance exam. In the end, he stopped at the student from Sheryang High School who had become a body fundamentalist. He sat up in bed with a start. It wasn't easy to obtain a flawless elementary alchemy technique. How could he still sleep, get up, and cultivate? He planned to start sensing his origin aperture now and become a body fundamentalist as soon as possible. Chapter 14. If a body fundamentalist wanted to break through, they needed to sense the origin acupoints first. The origin acupoints were a very mysterious existence. They were not real organs in the human body, but more like a special connection channel between the human body and the universe. They were ethereal, but very important. After sensing the origin acupoints, one could use origin power to attack the acupoints and finally open the acupoints, allowing the human body to connect with the universe and absorb the universe's origin power for one's own use. Mo Xiaobai took out a dozen or so origin crystals from his spatial ring and placed them beside him. He held one in each hand, then sat cross-legged on the bed and closed his eyes. After absorbing the flawless elementary refinement technique, he understood the specific steps to break through. His consciousness became ethereal, and his spiritual energy drifted as he fell into meditation. Finding the origin acupoints was not easy because they were not fixed in the body. Everyone's origin acupoints were located at different locations and needed to be carefully sensed. The room became silent, and there was the sound of insects chirping outside the window. A light breeze brushed past Mo Xiaobai's handsome face, but his expression did not change at all as he immersed himself in sensing. Time passed, and a few hours later, Mo Xiaobai's drifting consciousness suddenly sensed a faint white dot of light in the endless darkness. His spirit was shaken. Found it. So fast. One had to know that sensing the origin acupoints was a difficult job. Many people spent days or even months without being able to sense it. He had set a target of 1 week, but he did not expect to sense it so easily. He hurriedly activated the elementary refinement technique. The Grade 1 origin crystal in his hand flashed with white light as wisps of origin power were absorbed into Mo Xiaobai's body. He activated the elementary refinement technique and controlled the origin power to attack the white dot of light. Boom! With the first impact, he felt as if a bell had rung in his head, and he could feel a faint pain in his body. He knew that this was a normal phenomenon and did not mind it. He continued to absorb the origin power and attacked the white dot of light. Boom, boom, boom. As time passed, more and more origin power was absorbed by Mo Xiaobai. All the origin power gathered into one and attacked the origin acupoint. At this time, the benefits of a flawless elementary alchemy were displayed. Mo Xiaobai was able to control more origin power. At the same time, he could also condense his origin power and make its impact more powerful. This was extremely beneficial to opening the primordial acupoint. Under the repeated attacks, Mo Xiaobai's pain became more and more intense. His face was pale and cold sweat appeared on his forehead, but he did not stop. He planned to open his origin aperture in one go. Boom! Crack! It was another collision, but this time it was different. Mo Xiaobai saw the white light flicker, and at the same time, he heard the sound of something shattering. Soon, Mo Xiaobai was delighted. He endured the pain and continued to absorb origin power to break through. Every time they collided, there would be a shattering sound. At the same time, the white light spots flashed faster and faster. Boom! On the 9th collision, the white light suddenly exploded and spread out, dispersing the darkness in Mo Xiaobai's consciousness. He could clearly hear something completely shattering. It was broken. Mo Xiaobai was pleasantly surprised. He did not expect to break through so quickly. Before he could calm himself down, a roar exploded in his mind. A strange scene appeared in Mo Xiaobai's consciousness. It was a 5-meter-tall giant dressed in bronze armor. He stood on the barren land and roared. He stepped on the ground, causing it to tremble. With him, as the center, spiderweb-like cracks spread out. He punched the mountain peak, causing a loud explosion. The mountain peak, which was hundreds of meters tall, crumbled. When Mo Xiaobai saw this scene, his heart was filled with shock. This was a powerful force, the power of the origin. This giant, his heart beat violently. He was extremely shocked. This was a jinn. The history of the Azure Empire was incomplete, but the Empire's experts still managed to find some fragments of history from ancient documents and remnants. Before the birth of the Azure Empire, there were at least two glorious eras. The previous era of the Azure Empire was known as the Golden Era. In that era, humans, elves, barbarians, night creatures, mermaids, and rabbitmen all built their own civilizations. They explored the void and developed their own civilizations. It was said that there were many experts, and their civilization was brilliant. However, even such a glorious era was almost destroyed by the Void Demon's invasion. The descendants of the Golden Era formed the current Azure Empire. Before the Golden Era, there was an ancient era known as the Ancient Era. According to extremely rare historical remains and ancient documents, there was a huge race in that era. That race was more than 5 meters tall. They were much taller than barbarians and were extremely powerful. This race was known as the Jinn. According to the ancient documents and murals, the Jinn had an extremely glorious civilization. However, they disappeared along with the Ancient Era. There was no trace of a Jinn in the Golden Era. No one knew why such a powerful Jinn went extinct. Some said it was a natural disaster from the astral realm. Some said it was an invasion by the demons. Some even said it was related to the 3 forbidden zones. There were all kinds of guesses. Mo Xiaobai did not expect that he would see the Jinn during his breakthrough. This should have disappeared in the long river of history. Just as Mo Xiaobai was in shock, the image in his mind collapsed and turned into specks of light that merged into his body. Mo Xiaobai felt his flesh and blood tremble. Waves of powerful energy surged out of Mo Xiaobai's body. This strength was not something that a rank 1 body fundamentalist could possess. What the hell was this? Mo Xiaobai was a little stunned. Wait. Suddenly, Mo Xiaobai's mind shook. He understood something. Awakening, I've awakened. No one knew where the 6 races came from. However, many experts believe that the 6 races came from the same source. They might have been created by an unknown powerful god. After creating the 6 races and planet Azure, the god left. As the 6 races continued to explore the universe and their own mysteries, there was a chance that they would awaken a special power. This awakening was like the 6 races regaining control of the god's gift to the 6 races. This was because this awakened power was more like an innate instinct. Although there were not many who had awakened, it was not rare. For example, Mo Xiaobai's mother Muyuju had awakened the power of fire. She was stronger than others of the same level. However, what did I awaken? The power of the Jinn? The power of the Jinn? Could it be that the Jinn and the 6 races came from the same source? Or were the Jinn actually gods? Otherwise, how could he awaken the power of the Jinn? Did others awaken the power of the Jinn as well? Mo Xiaobai's mind was full of questions. Chapter 15. Moments later, the light from the shattered Jinn image completely merged into Mo Xiaobai's flesh and blood. His strength finally stopped growing. At the same time, a white ball appeared in Mo Xiaobai's consciousness. That was the origin acupoint that had been opened. Mo Xiaobai could feel the strands of origin power in the universe being absorbed into the origin acupoint, and he could mobilize the origin power within at any time. Breakthrough. He was now a 1 aperture, 1 rank, 1 body fundamentalist. Mo Xiaobai slowly opened his eyes and exhaled slightly. Outside the window, the moonlight was still shining, and the sound of insects could be heard in the silent night. The sky had yet to brighten. He had actually broken through in just a few hours. Mo Xiaobai felt the powerful energy within his body and was somewhat in disbelief. Moreover, he had actually awakened Jinn energy. He could clearly feel that his explosive power, recovery ability, and other aspects had more than doubled compared to when he had just broken through. Moreover, he had broken through using the flawless elementary refinement technique, so his strength was already stronger than others. Just how strong was he now? Mo Xiaobai wasn't sure, but he was certain that he wasn't weak. Perhaps it was because he had been shocked too much by the Jin image, but Mo Xiaobai quickly calmed down. He looked at his hands and saw that the origin power within the two origin crystals had been completely absorbed and had turned into white dust. The night wind blew, and the dust disappeared into his hands. He glanced at the origin crystals beside him with a trace of anticipation in his eyes. Come, it's my first time cultivating. Let me see the effects of a flawless elementary alchemy technique. Mo Xiaobai casually picked up the two origin crystals and closed his eyes once more. He activated the refinement technique, and the origin power within the crystals was absorbed into the white origin acupoint with a much stronger suction force than before. The origin power vibrated at the edge of the origin acupoint, and the origin acupoint was continuously widened. 2 minutes later, Mo Xiaobai opened his eyes and looked at the dust in his hands, somewhat dumbfounded. "You've finished absorbing it." He had absorbed 2 origin crystals in a short 2 minutes? 1 a minute? The corner of his mouth twitched violently. Wasn't the consumption of origin crystals a bit too fast? He had counted the origin crystals he had obtained from the Greystone Hills and found a total of 374. Based on this rate of absorption, how could he withstand it? However, even if Mo Xiaobai couldn't take it anymore, he could only continue cultivating like this. Time was running out. In a month's time, he had to reach level 5 or above. Mo Xiaobai stopped thinking about it and continued absorbing with his origin crystal. 5 minutes, 10 minutes, half an hour later, Mo Xiaobai's origin aperture, his consciousness, had almost doubled in size compared to when he had just broken through. Just as he was about to continue expanding, he suddenly felt waves of pain coming from his origin aperture. He frowned slightly and stopped the operation of the origin refining technique. He was almost at his limit. The widening of the origin aperture had to be done step by step. Otherwise, the origin aperture could easily collapse. Once the origin aperture collapsed, it would be more difficult to recover. Cultivating for an hour, Mo Xiaobai was very satisfied. He could feel that he was not far from breaking through to rank 2. At this rate, it was very likely that he would reach his goal. The corners of his mouth curled up into a smile. However, when he saw that a pile of origin crystals was missing from his spatial ring, the smile on his face froze. The flawless origin refining technique was good in everything, but it consumed too many origin crystals. I'll ask for some from my parents later. Or, Mo Xiaobai's eyes lit up as he had an idea. Since he had broken through to become a body fundamentalist, could he go to the Greystone Hills to take a look? With his own light, he should be able to find more good things. Right? Light. Mo Xiaobai came back to his senses as soon as he thought of light. I wonder if that strange light has any effect on me after I make a breakthrough in my cultivation. He hurriedly looked at the light around him. Soon after, he discovered that the light had indeed changed. Originally, the light could only cover a radius of 50 meters. Now, when he looked out of the window, he could see that the area within 100 meters was now covered by light. Had the range increased? Then the efficiency of searching for treasures would be much higher. Moreover, he would be able to discover danger earlier, and it would be much safer to take risks in the void. Mo Xiaobai felt as if he had hit the jackpot, and his heart was filled with excitement. This light was his most important treasure, and the improvement of the light's effects was the happiest thing for him. Since even the range of the light had increased, Mo Xiaobai decided that he would go to the Greystone Hills again after he had used up all the origin crystals here. Afterwards, Mo Xiaobai took out the triple/origin skill crystal. After breaking through to become a body fundamentalist, he could cultivate this origin skill. The rhombus-shaped origin skill crystal flickered with a blue light, appearing extremely mysterious. He placed the origin skill crystal on his forehead and began to absorb the knowledge within. Very quickly, the origin skill crystal dissipated into specks of light, and Mo Xiaobai completely comprehended the mysteries of the triple slash. Triple slash, as the name implied, was to unleash 3 consecutive attacks at an extremely fast speed. The power of each attack would continuously increase, and after comprehending it to perfection, the power of the final slash would almost double. And now, Mo Xiao had already comprehended it to perfection, and he only needed a certain amount of time to be able to familiarize himself with this origin skill. With an increase of almost double with Mo Xiao's current strength, he should be able to kill magic beasts stronger than him, right? As expected of a rare grade origin skill, Mo Xiao was excited, and he couldn't wait for the sun to rise so that he could try out the effects of this origin skill. The sky gradually brightened. Mo Xiao, wake up! A familiar voice called out from outside the door. Mo Xiao jumped out of bed with a bang. He couldn't fall asleep at all. He just lay in bed for a few hours. I'm up, he replied, changed his clothes quickly, and opened the door to his room. At the door, Little Red was waiting for him as expected. Mo Xiao grinned as he patted Little Red's warm scales and said, Little Red, good morning. Then, under Little Red's somewhat confused gaze, he ran past Little Red like a wisp of smoke. After washing up, Mo Xiao went to the living room. Mo Yu and Mu Yuzhu were clearly in a good mood, and they both had smiles on their faces. They were sitting at the dining table, waiting for Mo Xiao to eat breakfast. Before Mo Yu and Mu Yuzhu could say anything, Mo Xiao smiled and said, Dad, Mom, I've already broken through to become a martial body fundamentalist. Mo Yu. Mu Yuzhu. The two of them were stunned by Mo Xiao's words, and they were a little confused. I've already broken through to become a martial body fundamentalist. Mo Xiao smiled as he repeated it. Only then did Mo Yu and Mu Yuzhu come back to their senses. The two of them looked at each other, and their eyes flashed with pleasant surprise. Mo Yu said, You've already broken through? Mo Xiao nodded. Yes, I couldn't sleep last night, so I cultivated overnight. Ha, good. I didn't expect you to break through in just one night. Mo Yu and Mu Yuzhu were overjoyed. Mo Xiao smiled and said, Dad, I want to go to the Adventurers Guild and register as an adventurer today. Chapter 16. Registered Adventurer? Mo Yu frowned and said, You just broke through, right? Can you pass the test? Mo Xiao raised his eyebrows and smiled. It shouldn't be a problem. I've awakened. Awakened? Mu Yuzhu and Mo Yu both opened their eyes wide and exclaimed. The two looked at each other and smiled. Mu Yuzhu said happily, Xiao, you've given us too many surprises in the past 2 days. Mo Yu nodded. Indeed. From the void treasure to the flawless elementary alchemy technique to becoming a body fundamentalist overnight and even awakening. They were pleasantly surprised. Their son was a genius. Mo Yu smiled and asked, What kind of power did you awaken? Mo Xiao told them about the Jinn and the power of the Jinn last night. Mu Yuzhu said, The power of the Jinn. I don't know if anyone else has it. At least I haven't heard of it. Mo Yu nodded. However, there are many talents that can increase strength. Everyone's talent is different, so you don't have to worry about it. Mu Yuzhu agreed. You can double your strength right after awakening, and it's an all-around increase. Your talent should be quite powerful. The two of them were relieved. The stronger Mo Xiao was, the happier they were. Mo Yu said, In that case, let's go to the Adventurers Guild later. You become a body fundamentalist, so you need to prepare your weapons and equipment. Hearing this, Mo Xiao's eyes lit up. Thank you, Dad. If he had good equipment, he would be stronger and it would be safer for him to go to the Greystone Hills. After breakfast, Mo Yu brought Mo Xiao to the Adventurers Guild. The Adventurers Guild was like the Azure Military. It was an official organization of the Azure Empire. The military protected the country and the dangerous areas, such as the 3 forbidden areas and the borders of some barbarian tribes. The Adventurers Guild, on the other hand, was a special intermediary platform. It operated by entrusting, accepting missions, and managing the Void Domain. Every town had its own branch of adventurers. Pingxi Town's Adventurers Guild was located right in the center of the town. It was a tall white building. It was similar to the Adventure Center, but it was bigger and had more people than the Adventure Center. Mo Xiao followed Mo Yu through the door. He looked around curiously and realized that the layout inside was similar to the Adventure Center. There were counters in the huge hall, and adventurers were coming and going to do business. Mo Xiaobai noticed that when they came in, many of the adventurers passing by were looking at them. To be precise, they were looking at MOU. Mo Xiaobai suddenly understood. After all, his father was a three-apertured body fundamentalist and the captain of an adventure team. You should know some people here. There was a huge screen in the hall opposite the door, and there was a message on the screen. Mo Xiaobai looked at it and realized that it was a commission mission. The first commission mission made Mo Xiaobai's eyes widen. Find the murderer. Find a murderer of the Fuding District murder case, dead or alive. Reward: 1 elite grade origin skill crystal, 500 grade 1 origin crystals. The Fuding District murder case. Isn't it the case of that little girl? Mo Xiaobai was a little surprised. MOU glanced at the screen and said, "Oh, this should be a mission issued by the city guards. The city guards also issue missions in the Adventurers Guild?" MOU smiled. Of course. The city guards have limited manpower, and Pingxi Town isn't small. It's a little difficult to find a murderer. Naturally, they would issue missions to the adventurers. Mo Xiaobai was a little surprised. He smiled and said, "The rewards for this mission are quite generous." MOU narrowed her eyes and nodded. Not bad indeed. Although Mo Xiaobai had obtained a legendary origin skill crystal and a rare origin skill crystals were still very rare treasures. Moreover, they were elite grade. Even for a 3-aperture powerhouse, they were quite good. While Mo Xiaobai and you were talking, a barbarian man walked out from the corridor at the side of the hall. His short gray hair stood up like a hedgehog, and he wore grayish-blue leather armor. He looked like a ferocious giant bear. The barbarian man walked toward MOU and Mo Xiaobai and grinned. "Captain Mo, why are you here?" MOU smiled. "Supervisor Boo, I didn't expect you to be on duty today." As he spoke, he patted Mo Xiaobai beside him. "This is my son, Mo Xiaobai. He just broke through to become a body fundamentalist. Today, I brought him to register as an adventurer. Xiaobai, this is Supervisor Bu Bai of the Adventurers Guild." Mo Xiaobai nodded and greeted Bu Bai. "Hello, Supervisor Bu." Bu Bai sized up Mo Xiaobai and grinned. "This is the son you've been talking about? He became a body fundamentalist at such a young age? Not bad, not bad." He patted Mo Xiaobai's shoulder. Mo Xiaobai felt like he was almost slapped to the ground. Heroes come from the young. With this talent, he'll definitely be in the top 100 academies. "Captain Mo, you're so lucky." The corners of MOU's mouth curled up, revealing a smile. "Supervisor Bu, you flatter me. Little White still needs to work hard." Bu Bai laughed and said, "Since I'm free right now, I'll bring you to register. Then I'll have to trouble you. Supervisor Bu." Bu Bai led Mo Xiaobai and MOU through a door on the other side of the hall. After walking through a corridor, they came to a room that was slightly smaller than the hall. There were 2 counters near the door and a few body fundamentalists in line. They were probably here to register as adventurers. Further inside the room was a recessed square area. Mo Xiaobai could see that there was an arena below. In the arena, a young man was fighting with a 1-aperture level 1 greystone wolf. The young man seemed to have just become a body fundamentalist. He was having a hard time fighting the greystone wolf. There were many bloody wounds on his body. However, the long sword in his hand also left many wounds on the greystone wolf. The battle was in a stalemate for more than a minute. The young man then slashed a deep wound on the greystone wolf's neck and killed it. After killing the greystone wolf, he was panting and could barely stand. Passed the test. At the edge of the arena, a night creature woman in leather armor with a cold expression announced. The young man smiled excitedly. He propped up his tired body and thanked the night creature woman. Then he walked up the stairs. His companion was a delicate-looking rabbit woman. She hurriedly supported him after he came up, her eyes full of love and concern. "Xiaobai, to become a Black Iron adventurer, you have to defeat a 1-aperture level 1 magical beast. You know that, right?" Bu Bai said with a smile. Mo Xiaobai nodded. "Yes, Supervisor Bu." Bu Bai nodded. "Then come with me." He brought Mo Xiaobai directly to the front of the line. When the people in the line saw this scene, they frowned slightly with dissatisfaction. They were about to speak when the elf man in charge of registration stood up. "Supervisor Bu, why are you here?" Hearing this, the people in the queue immediately lowered their heads and pretended that nothing had happened. Bubai nodded and pushed Mo Xiaobai forward. "Register him." The elf man saw Mo Xiaobai's young face and was stunned. Then he nodded. "Okay." Chapter 17. First-time adventurers had to fill in their personal information and go through a test. They had to at least be able to defeat a one-apertured level 1 magical beast. After that, adventurers would have to complete a certain number of commission missions. Under the guidance of the staff, Mo Xiaobai quickly filled in his personal information. Bubai smiled and said, "Okay, now you just have to defeat a one-apertured level 1 magical beast. Oh, right. Will you be using your own weapons and equipment or the guild's?" As he spoke, he pointed to a weapon rack at the side. On the weapon rack, there were all sorts of weapons, including simple leather armor. However, the leather armor looked tattered, as if it could be torn apart at any time. Mo Xiaobai was stunned. He remembered that he didn't have any equipment yet. He smiled and said, "I'll use the weapons here." Bubai looked at Mo Xiaobai's confident expression and raised his eyebrows. "Why don't you borrow your father's equipment?" Mo Xiaobai had just broken through, so his confidence was a bit exaggerated. Beside him, Mo smiled and said, "Let him be." Bubai was stunned when he heard Mo say the same thing. He then smiled and said, "Captain Mo, it seems like you have a lot of confidence in Xiaobai." Mo smiled and said, "He'll be fine." "Okay, go and choose your weapon." Mo Xiaobai walked to the weapon rack and picked up a long sword. He waved it around casually. Because he had broken through and awakened the Titan power, his strength had increased greatly. Compared to the standard steel sword he used at the Greystone Hills, it seemed a bit light. He switched to a thicker and longer sword. After waving it around, he found that it was still a bit light, but it could still be used. He smiled and said, "I'll take this sword." Bubai said, "What about the armor?" "No need." Bubai nodded and pointed at the stairs. "Then let's go down." The body fundamentalists who were waiting in line for registration had strange expressions when they saw Mo Xiaobai walk down with only a sword. Some people were surprised, some were disdainful, and some even sneered. He was just a little brat, yet he dared to be so arrogant. Conceit and arrogance often send adventurers into the abyss of death. In their eyes, Mo Xiaobai was just a hedonistic son of a wealthy family who did not know the immensity of heaven and earth. However, because Bubai and Mo were at the side, they did not mock him out loud. In the arena, the night creature woman who was acting as the referee was slightly stunned when she saw Mo Xiaobai's young face. But when she saw that Mo Xiaobai was only holding a big sword, she couldn't help but frown. She said softly, "Are you sure this is the test?" Mo Xiaobai smiled and nodded. "Yes." Night Creature looked at Mo Xiaobai again and nodded. "Then let's begin." With that, she pressed a button on the wall. There was a closed metal door opposite the stairs that Mo Xiaobai came down from. The iron door slowly rose, revealing a dark passageway. Low and violent roars could be heard coming from the darkness. Roar! Roar! Soon, the metal door was completely raised, and a huge gray stone boar rushed out. Mo Xiaobai could see that the gray stone boar was surrounded by light gray light. The gray stone boar rushed out of the tunnel. The moment it saw Mo Xiaobai, a violent and murderous light flashed across its eyes. It lowered its head, and 2 half-meter-long white teeth flashed with white spirit light. It stepped on the ground and turned into a gray blur as it rushed toward Mo Xiaobai. Dong, dong, dong. The sound of the gray stone boar's footsteps echoed in the arena. Mo Xiaobai looked at the gray stone boar calmly. When the gray stone boar was close to him, he tapped the ground with the tip of his foot and moved 1 meter horizontally. Then he gripped the big sword tightly in his right hand, shook his wrist, and swung his arm. The big sword drew a white flash in the air and slashed the gray stone boar's neck at the same time. Pissed! The gray stone boar was still charging, but on the way, blood spurted out from its neck like a fountain. Its head was blown away by the blood and landed on the ground a few meters away. It rolled a few times before coming to a stop. Dong! The headless gray stone wild boar staggered a few meters before it fell heavily to the ground, letting out a muffled echo. The entire room fell into dead silence. The night creature girl on the side, Bu-Bai, and MOU on the arena, the martial fundamentalists and the staff members who were waiting for registration, all stared at the headless corpse of the gray stone boar with wide eyes, a little stunned. After a moment of silence, Bu-Bai came back to his senses. He twitched the corner of his mouth and looked at Mo Xiaobai with a trace of shock in his eyes. Old Mo, you told me that your son just became a martial fundamentalist? He had such strength after breaking through. Are you kidding me? Mo also came back to his senses. His face twitched. Indeed, he just broke through. He was also very shocked. He knew that Mo Xiaobai had broken through using the flawless elementary alchemy technique and awakened the Titan power, so he was probably quite powerful. But how could he have guessed that? As expected of my son, he tried to control himself and not laugh too proudly. The martial fundamentalists on the side felt their scalps go numb. They looked at Mo Xiaobai and trembled slightly. They shrunk their necks silently. In the arena, Night Creature, who was the referee, also came back to her senses. She opened her eyes wide and looked at Mo Xiaobai. Then, a smile appeared on her cold face. You passed. Congratulations. Mo Xiaobai smiled and nodded. Thank you, sister. Night Creature smiled even more happily. Oh, this kid. He was handsome, powerful, and talented. It was just that he was too young. After going upstairs, Mo Xiaobai came to Bu-Bai and said with a wry smile, Manager Bu, I'm sorry. I used a bit too much strength. The sword seems to be broken. Bu-Bai saw the crack on Mo Xiaobai's sword, and his pupil shrank. Even the sword was cracked. This strength, it was actually a kid who just became a martial fundamentalist. He smiled brightly and patted Mo Xiaobai's shoulder. It's just a fine iron sword. It's not a big deal that it's broken. During the testing, these weapons were often changed. Mo Xiaobai was relieved that he was not held responsible. Bu-Bai looked at Mo and said, Old Mo, your son is really a genius. It seems that he has a chance to enter the top 50. Mo smiled brightly. Haha, I hope so. I'll take your blessings. Xiaobai, you've passed the test. You're now a mature black iron adventurer. Go get your badge. Mo Xiaobai's eyes lit up as he walked over to the staff. The martial fundamentalists at the side all made way for him, their eyes filled with respect. The scene of Mo Xiaobai beheading the gray stone boar with a single sword strike lingered in their minds. This is your badge. The staff handed a black iron badge to Mo Xiaobai. Thank you. Mo Xiaobai received the badge excitedly. The badge was completely black. There was a door carved in the middle of the badge, and there were swords, bows, staffs, and other weapons carved on the sides. This door represented the Void Domain. Most of the adventurers' activities were in the Void Domain. The Azure Empire was able to flourish partly because adventurers obtained origin skill crystals, treasures, and knowledge in the Void Domain. Let's go. To celebrate you becoming a black iron adventurer, I'll buy you a weapon. MOU said with a smile. Chapter 18. Manager Bu, sorry to trouble you this time. I'll treat you to a drink next time. At the entrance of the Adventurers Guild, MOU smiled at Bu-Bai. Bu-Bai laughed and waved his hand. What's so troublesome about that? I should congratulate you for having such an outstanding son. As he spoke, he patted Mo Xiaobai's shoulder and said, Xiaobai, good luck in the college entrance exam. I wish you good results. Mo Xiaobai smiled and nodded. I will. Thank you, Manager Bu. All right, I have other things to do too. Let's drink together next time. Bu-Bai smiled and nodded. MOU and Mo Xiaobai also bid farewell to Bu-Bai and left the Adventurers Guild. Let's go to the Gray Metal Weapon Shop. It's the best weapon shop in Pingxi Town. There should be a suitable weapon for you. Mo Xiaobai nodded with anticipation. Okay, he was finally going to have a weapon of his own. The Gray Metal Weapon Shop was very close to the Adventurers Guild. Because most of the adventurers were powerful martial body fundamentalists, many weapon shops, equipment shops, and potion shops were built around the Adventurers Guild. The Adventurers Guild in every city would often form a bustling business district. Mo Xiaobai followed Mou and walked a few steps before they arrived at a gray-colored shop that occupied an area of a few hundred square meters. The words Gray Metal Weapon Shop were engraved on the plaque above the door. Welcome. As soon as they entered the shop, they heard a rough voice. Mo Xiaobai looked towards the source of the voice. It was an old barbarian with gray hair tied into a ponytail. He was extremely muscular. When the barbarian saw Mou, he smiled. Captain Mo, it's you. Mou nodded and glanced at the customers in twos and threes in the shop. He smiled and said, Old Gray, business seems to be good. Haha. Old Gray laughed. Not bad. Are you here to buy equipment? Moyo nodded. My son has just become a black iron adventurer. Buy him a weapon. Old Gray looked at Mo Xiaobai and smiled. You're already a black iron adventurer at such a young age? Commander Mo, you have a successor now. Mou was in a very good mood. She smiled and said, All right, are there any suitable Tier 1 sword-type weapons? Old Gray frowned and thought for a while. Then his eyes lit up and he walked out from behind the counter. There is an elite Tier 1 heavy sword. He came to a shelf with a row of swords and took out a heavy sword that was 5 meters long. The sword was gray in color, and there was a white pattern on the sword spine. It looked very sharp. Forged with greystone essence and elite greystone wild boar's tusks, it is extremely sharp. Moreover, it will increase the strength of the wielder to a certain extent. The only downside is that it is somewhat heavy. If one is just broken through, it might be inconvenient to wield it. Old Gray explained with a smile. Hearing that it was somewhat heavy, Mo Xiaobai and Mou's eyes lit up. Mo Xiaobai took a step forward and said with a smile, Can you let me try? Old Gray looked at Mo Xiaobai and handed the sword to him. Be careful, it's a bit heavy. After seeing Mo Xiaobai take the sword with one hand, he stopped talking and looked at Mo Xiaobai in surprise. Mo Xiaobai twisted his wrist and swung the sword. Chi! The air was split open by the sword's edge. The wind from the sword brushed past Old Gray's face. His pupils shrank. What great strength! This strength didn't seem like the strength of a martial fundamentalist who had just broken through one aperture. Mo Xiaobai didn't pay attention to Old Gray's words. He realized that the sword was quite handy to use. Moreover, when he held the sword, a surge of energy flowed into his body from the sword, increasing his strength. Although the increase was a bit weak, it was just a little bit of strength in battle. The corners of his mouth curled up into a smile. Good sword. Then, he poured his force into the sword. The sword glowed with a faint white light. There were also traces of green light on the light. Whoosh! Mo Xiaobai swung the sword again. A gust of fierce sword wind surged, making a deep whistling sound. All the martial fundamentalists who were looking at weapons in the shop looked up. After seeing Mo Xiaobai's young and tender face, they all widened their eyes and were a little surprised. He was so strong at such a young age. Comparisons were odious. Many of the older martial fundamentalists had complicated expressions. Mou nodded slightly. The force conductivity is not bad. Old Gray grinned, revealing a mouthful of uneven teeth. You're a regular customer. Are you still doubting my skills? Seeing Mo Xiaobai admiring the sword so much, Mou smiled. Do you want to look at something else? Mo Xiaobai shook his head slightly. I'll take this one. He was very satisfied with the sword. With this sword, he felt that his combat strength could increase by 10% or even 20%. If an elite weapon had such an effect, what about a rare weapon? Or even a rare one? How much would it increase his combat strength? Mo Xiaobai yearned for it. It would be great if he could find a rare weapon. Unfortunately, low-grade rare materials were usually not a high grade. It was even more difficult to create a high-grade weapon. Mo Xiaobai knew that even Mou's longsword was only a rare grade. A rare weapon was probably even rarer than a rank 1 weapon. Mo Xiaobai stopped thinking about it. This heavy sword was already good enough. How much? Old Gray grinned. 500 origin crystals, no bargaining. Mo Xiaobai's mouth twitched. So expensive. It's enough for me to cultivate for 8 days. Mo nodded. It's reasonable. Let's settle the bill. After settling the bill, Mo and Mo Xiao Bai left the gray iron weapon shop under Old Gray's warm escort. Afterwards, Mo brought Mo Xiao Bai to a nearby equipment store to buy a set of elite-grade leather armor. The leather armor was made from elite gray stone wolf skin. It could increase strength to a certain extent, and its defense was not bad. The price was also very touching. It was 400 origin crystals. The weapon and leather armor cost a total of 900 origin crystals. It was enough for Mo Xiao Bai to cultivate for half a month. Mo Xiao Bai felt a bit of heartache. However, the increase in equipment was very obvious. If Mo Xiao Bai was fully equipped, his combat strength would increase by 30%. It was easy to imagine how precious this equipment was. After purchasing the equipment, Mo bought Mo Xiao Bai an even bigger spatial ring. The original spatial ring could no longer hold the gray stone sword. After buying all the equipment, it was already evening when they returned home. After eating dinner and taking a bath, Mo Xiao Bai returned to his room to rest. Lying on his bed, Mo Xiao Bai calmed his excitement from obtaining his first weapon and leather armor. He began to think about his next plan. He definitely couldn't fall behind in his cultivation. He would consume 60 origin crystals in an hour every day. His origin crystals could support his cultivation for another 5 days. After using up all his origin crystals, it would be time for him to go to the void domain. After obtaining enough resources, he would cultivate diligently and break through to rank 5-1 aperture within a month. That way, he would have hopes of entering the Big Three. Mo Xiao Bai's eyes flickered with anticipation. Chapter 19. The next morning, Mo Xiao Bai sat cross-legged on his bed, holding 2 origin crystals in his hands. He was using the origin refining technique, absorbing the origin power from the origin crystals into his body and slowly merging it into his origin aperture. The origin power vibrated, and the origin aperture slowly expanded. At this moment, Mo Xiao Bai realized that although the origin power was still vibrating, the origin aperture had stopped expanding, as if it had reached a limit. He was slightly shocked, and his heartbeat sped up. Was this the limit of level 1? So fast? His heart was filled with surprise. The breakthrough had begun. He slowly calmed down and continued to absorb the spirit power, continuously increasing the vibrations. Traces of pain came from his body. However, because of the Titan spirit force, his body had become far stronger than a body fundamentalist of the same level, so the pain was very mild. Pop! Not long after, Mo Xiao Bai felt his body become light, as if he had broken some shackles. Mo Xiao Bai suddenly opened his eyes filled with surprise. 1 aperture level 2. So easy. He was even a little in disbelief. He had broken through level 1 in just over a day. This kind of cultivation speed was beyond his imagination. Is this the effect of a flawless elementary origin refining technique? Isn't this too terrifying? He looked at the rising orange-gold sun outside the window, squinted his eyes slightly, and muttered to himself, "Wait, that's not right." Mo Xiao Bai thought of something. He was using origin skill crystals. The flawless elementary origin refining technique that he had obtained had reached perfection. If he had just learned the flawless elementary origin refining technique, he probably wouldn't have been able to cultivate so quickly. If someone wanted to cultivate at the same speed as him, they would probably have to have perfected the flawless elementary origin refining technique. After thinking it through, he no longer hesitated, closed his eyes again, and began to cultivate. An hour of cultivation passed quickly, and Mo Xiao Bai opened his eyes, exhaling slightly. The corners of his mouth curled up, revealing a smile. He had broken through to level 2 on the second day, very smoothly. He glanced at the pile of origin crystals that had decreased again and estimated that they could last for about 4 more days. Hopefully, he could break through to level 3. He got off the bed, stretched, changed his clothes, and walked out of the room. In the living room, Mo was still sitting on the sofa, reading the newspaper. Mo Xiao Bai glanced at him and saw that his brows were furrowed and his expression was ugly. He asked curiously, "What's wrong?" Mo Xiaobai recovered. He lifted his head to look at Mo Xiaobai. Another person has died. It was also a young man. His body was found in a deserted alley. It was badly mutilated. Mo Xiaobai's pupils shrank and his heart trembled. That murderer again? Mo's face darkened. There's no report, but I'm afraid there's a high probability that it's true. Mo Xiaobai fell silent. After a moment of silence, Mo smiled and said, "All right, don't think too much about it. You'll be fine as long as you don't run around when it's dark. The murderer won't dare to do anything during the day." Mo Xiaobai nodded. "Old Mo, help me carry the bowl." Mu Yuju's voice came from the kitchen. "He's here." Mo quickly put down the newspaper and walked to the kitchen. After breakfast, Mo Xiaobai went out. At the entrance of the neighborhood, the head of the security team, Ning Feng, saw Mo Xiaobai and said, "Good morning, Xiaobai." "Good morning, Uncle Ning." Mo Xiaobai saw that Ning Feng's expression was a little ugly. He couldn't help but ask, "What's wrong, Uncle Ning?" Ning Feng came back to his senses and smiled. "Isn't it because of that murder case? It's making everyone anxious. I'm starting to worry about my little brat." Mo Xiaobai heard this and comforted him. "Uncle Ning, don't worry. Xiao Ran is quite sensible. He won't run around at night." Hearing this, Ning Feng smiled and nodded. "That's true. You should go to school." He opened the door for Mo Xiaobai and let Mo Xiaobai out. "Goodbye, Uncle Ning." Mo Xiaobai waved at Uncle Ning and walked out of the neighborhood. Mo Xiaobai returned to class and found that many people were already there. Everyone was gathered in twos and threes. They were all discussing the murder case in low voices. Their expressions were not good. Mo Xiaobai returned to his seat and sat down. Zheng Dong came over. "Xiaobai, you're back. Did you hear about today's murder case?" Mo Xiaobai opened the drawer and saw 7 love letters. He raised his eyebrows slightly. He hadn't been back to school for a few days and had accumulated quite a lot. He took out the love letters and casually placed them in the compartment. He nodded and said, "I heard about it. What's wrong?" "It's a guy from our first grade. He was fine yesterday. I didn't expect him to die today." Zheng Dong's expression was very complicated. The murderer is really cruel. When the body was found, his head was smashed and his organs were gone. Zheng Dong's face became paler as he spoke. Mo Xiaobai heard this and widened his eyes. "He's from our school." "Yes." Zheng Dong nodded. "According to the classmates who went back with him, his house is a bit far away. When we parted, he said that he wanted to take a shortcut." He swallowed and sighed. "Let's hope that the murderer is found soon." Mo Xiaobai glanced at Zheng Dong and then at the other classmates. He found that they all had a look of fear on their faces. Even he himself was feeling a little guilty. He made up his mind to go home early in the future. He would not stay outside for long. "Okay, let's not talk about this anymore." Zheng Dong was scared as he spoke. He quickly changed the topic. "By the way, Xiaobai, you asked for leave yesterday. Have you started practicing alchemy and started to sense your primordial acupoint? How do you feel?" He looked at Mo Xiaobai with eyes full of curiosity. After all, Mo Xiaobai was the first student in their class to sense their primordial acupoint. Mo Xiaobai smiled and said, "I've already broken through." Zheng Dong. The atmosphere fell into silence. Zheng Dong was stunned. He seemed to be thinking about the meaning of Mo Xiaobai's words. Then, he seemed to finally understand what Mo Xiaobai was talking about. He widened his eyes and exclaimed, "What? You said you've broken through?" Zheng Dong's voice was so loud that the whole class could hear him. Suddenly, everyone stopped talking and turned to look at him. "Breakthrough? What breakthrough? Mo Xiaobai has broken through? How is that possible? Didn't Lao Li say that it would take some time?" Everyone's eyes widened as they looked at Mo Xiaobai. Mo Xiaobai's forehead was full of black lines. If he had known this would happen, he would not have told this loud voice. Why was he shouting so loudly? At this moment, a pretty girl of the night opened her blood-red eyes wide. She looked at Mo Xiaobai shyly and asked softly, "Mo Xiaobai, you really broke through?" Mo Xiaobai smiled and nodded. "Yes." Huh. In an instant, the class was filled with all sorts of noise. It was so loud that it was deafening. It was as if the ceiling was about to be torn open. Mo Xiaobai felt like he was surrounded by a swarm of bees. His head was filled with buzzing noises. It was so noisy that his head was swelling. What's going on? What's all the noise about? At this moment, a stern voice sounded. Everyone around Mo Xiaobai returned to their seats. Mo Xiaobai heaved a sigh of relief. He looked gratefully at the stern Li Qishui at the door. He was saved. Chapter 20. Li Qishui glanced at everyone and asked, "What's going on?" No one dared to make a sound. Li Qishui had always been strict and was the homeroom teacher. Everyone in the class was like a mouse meeting a cat. Li Qishui looked at Mo Xiaobai, and the frost on his face eased a bit. He said, "Xiaobai, what's going on? Tell me." Mo Xiaobai's mouth twitched. He laughed dryly and said, "Because I became a body fundamentalist, so the students are a bit excited." What? Before Mo Xiaobai finished speaking, Li Qishui's eyes widened and he cried out. He quickly walked to Mo Xiaobai's side and carefully sensed Mo Xiaobai's aura. Then, his breathing quickened a bit, and an excited smile appeared on his strict face. Good. I didn't expect you to really become a body fundamentalist. Not bad." He reached out and patted Mo Xiaobai's shoulder, and the smile on his face became warmer. "There's still some time before the college entrance exam. Keep working hard and don't slack off." Mo Xiaobai nodded. "Okay." Li Qishui nodded in satisfaction, then turned back to the podium, and his face calmed down again. He glanced at the students below and said, "I'm sure you all know about this morning's murder, right? This is the second victim, and he's a student of our school." Li Qishui frowned and continued, "The authorities are already trying their best to catch the murderer. In the coming days, don't stay outside after school, and don't go to places with fewer people. Do you understand?" Yes. The voices in the class were exceptionally loud. Actually, even without Li Qishui's reminder, no one dared to go to places with fewer people. Wasn't it good to be young and still be alive? 4 days later, Mo Xiaobai sat cross-legged on his bed and slowly opened his eyes. The corner of his mouth curled up, and he revealed an excited smile. He had finally broken through to level 3 of 1 aperture. However, he felt a bit of headache when he glanced at the 20 or so origin crystals left in his spatial ring. Although the cultivation was going smoothly, the origin crystal was too weak and couldn't even last a week. Fortunately, he had broken through to level 3, and his combat strength had increased by quite a bit. He could now go to the Greystone Hills to take a look. During breakfast, Mo Xiaobai told Mo Yu and Mu Yuju about his idea of going to the Greystone Hills. Mo Yu and Mu Yuju initially disagreed. However, when they heard that Mo Xiaobai had broken through to level 3-1 aperture, they were shocked. After some consideration, the two of them agreed. Being a body fundamentalist wasn't just about cultivation. It was normal for a body fundamentalist to venture into the void domain. Mo Xiaobai's cultivation was already at level 3 of 1 aperture. Add to that his flawless origin power foundation, Titan strength, rare grade triple/origin skill, and a full set of elite grade equipment, and his combat strength was probably stronger than a typical level 5 1 aperture body fundamentalist. If they didn't let him go with such strength, they would be spoiling him too much. In the end, Yu agreed to let Mo Xiaobai apply for leave from school so that he could go to the Greystone Hills. Mo Xiaobai also let out a sigh of relief. If his parents hadn't agreed, he would have had to sneak away. Mo Xiaobai left happily after Mu Yuju reminded him of various things to take note of. Greystone Hills Adventure Center. After Mo Xiaobai entered the hall, he went to the counter to buy a ticket. A rank 1 normal void domain could only be entered by a body fundamentalist with a cultivation of 1 aperture. However, the higher grade void domains required a corresponding adventure rank. The ticket price was quite expensive, requiring 10 grade 1 origin crystals. Fortunately, Mo Xiaobai had saved 20 origin crystals before, or else he wouldn't even be able to afford the ticket. That would be awkward. Since he had already been here once, Mo Xiaobai skillfully went to the room of the light door and entered after checking his ticket. After arriving at the adventurer's encampment in the Greystone Hills, Mo Xiaobai didn't stop. He jogged all the way out of the plaza and ran out of the encampment. After exiting the city gate, Emo Xiaobai ran toward the east. Unlike the west, the east's magical beasts were much stronger. Most of them were at the beginner or intermediate level of rank 1, which was just right for Emo Xiaobai's current strength. Of course, the rewards would also be more plentiful. Looking at the east from the hills outside the city, Emo Xiaobai realized that the hills in the east were much steeper than those in the west. Forest was also more abundant. Moreover, the number of adventurers heading toward the east was much more than those heading toward the west. These adventurers were all one-aperture body fundamentalists. Some acted alone like Emo Xiaobai, while others acted in groups. After seeing Emo Xiaobai, they couldn't help but take a few more glances at him. After all, a one-aperture body fundamentalist at such a young age like Emo Xiaobai was too rare in Pingxi Town. Moreover, this young body fundamentalist actually had the guts to head to the east alone. This was truly shocking. There were even some groups that were whispering among themselves. Emo Xiaobai's gaze swept past the groups that passed by, and he raised his eyebrows slightly. He noticed that a few of the adventurers had light gray rays entwining around them. Did this mean that these adventurers were a threat to him? Emo Xiaobai finally understood what Mu Yuzhu had been warning him about. Be careful of the adventurers in the void domain. In this lawless area with countless treasures, there would always be some people who would be captured by greed. Under the watchful eyes of some adventurers with ill intentions, Emo Xiaobai chose a deserted area and entered the forest. After entering the forest, he didn't immediately go deeper. Instead, he waited at the side and only entered the forest after making sure that there were no other adventurers following him. The trees in the east forest were taller than those in the west. The dense canopy almost completely blocked out the sunlight, making the entire forest a little dark. Emo Xiaobai didn't mind. He ran in the forest and paid attention to the rays of light around him. After his cultivation level increased to level 3, the range of the white rays had increased to about 120 meters. The range of treasure hunting had also increased. Half an hour later, Emo Xiaobai came out of the forest. There were 3 more bloody sunflowers and a 4-leaf gray rock grass in his interspatial ring. There were a total of 14 origin crystals. He had earned back the entrance fee. Emo Xiaobai chuckled and continued searching for treasures. Not long after Emo Xiaobai left, Emo Yu and Mu Yuzhu walked out of the forest. They looked in the direction that Emo Xiaobai left and exchanged glances. Did you see that? That kid actually found 3 bloody sunflowers and a gray rock grass so quickly. Emoyu was a little dumbfounded. Xiaobai's luck is pretty good. I saw him running around, and in the end, he ran to the side of the herbs. Mu Yuzhu nodded as well. The two naturally didn't feel at ease letting Emo Xiaobai enter the void domain alone, so they secretly followed from behind. Of course, don't you know whose son he is? His luck is definitely like mine. Mu Yuzhu glanced at the proud Emoyu. Oh, how is your luck good? We've been in the void domain for so long, but we haven't seen you find any void domain treasures. Emoyu couldn't believe it. My luck isn't good enough to find such a good wife like you. Mu Yuzhu was speechless. She couldn't help but roll her eyes. You're so talkative. Hurry up and follow him. She turned around and chased after Emo Xiaobai. The corners of her mouth curled up, revealing a smile. Chapter 21. The morning passed by very quickly. Emo Xiaobai had traversed several mountains, crossed several rivers, and searched through several valleys. His harvest was quite bountiful. Emo Xiaobai didn't count the exact number of origin crystals, but it was definitely not a small number. Emo Xiaobai found a shady spot on a mountain top to rest. After eating some dry rations, he set off again. Very soon, Emo Xiaobai entered a small forest. According to his experience, there were more blood-yang flowers in the small forest and more gray rock grass in the areas with piles of rubble. He walked casually through the small forest, but at this time, he suddenly paused and looked toward his left with wide eyes. In that direction, there were strands of red flowing at the edge of the white light. Although these red lights weren't as dazzling as when he had discovered the void treasure, they were still a relatively deep red. Emo Xiaobai was delighted. Was there something good here? He glanced around and, after confirming that there was no danger, quickly walked toward the red light. The closer Mo Xiaobai got, the more red lights there were. It was as though there were red pillars of light stuck into the ground. Mo Xiaobai looked at the red light and was somewhat startled. This was because the location of the crimson beam of light was a patch of brown soil, and there were no herbs present. There was nothing special in the air, either. He raised his brows and approached cautiously with the gray stone sword in hand. He slashed the sword across the red light, but didn't touch anything. He then used the sword to poke the ground, but didn't find any herbs either. Nothing? Mo Xiaobai was somewhat surprised. Up until now, the red light had never made a mistake. There should be something good in its location, but there wasn't anything this time. Mo Xiaobai looked at the light and frowned slightly. Could it be underground? He arrived at the light's location and, holding the hilt of the gray sword with both hands, stabbed it into the brown soil. Swoosh! The sword was inserted over 10 centimeters into the soil. Mo Xiaobai pressed down with his hand and lifted up a large piece of soil. He used the gray stone sword as a hoe and began to dig a hole. Mo Xiaobai was a little worried that if there were herbs underground, he might damage them if he used too much force. Therefore, he dug very carefully. After a few slashes, Mo Xiaobai had dug out a hole that was about 10 centimeters deep. At this moment, Mo Xiaobai saw a small patch of purple in the dark brown soil at the bottom of the pit. His eyes lit up and he smiled excitedly. It was indeed underground. He carefully began to dig around purple. It didn't take long for him to dig out a fist-sized piece of purple root. His eyes widened as he looked at the purple root. His breathing quickened. Purple root grass? This was an elite-grade herb. Who would have thought that the elites of the Greystone Hills would have this kind of herb? He hurriedly took out the purple root. Looking at the purple root grass in his hand, the corners of his mouth curled up into a smile. This thing could be sold for at least 50 grade 1 origin crystals, right? All right, I wonder if there's a quest for purple root grass? Purple root grass was a medicinal herb with a wide range of uses. It was used in many kinds of medicine. There should be a quest for this, right? Mo Xiaobai pondered. He planned to go to the Adventurers Guild to take a look after returning to the encampment. Behind a tree in the distance, Mo Yu and Mu Yuzhu were stunned when they saw Mo Xiaobai digging a hole with the gray stone sword. The two of them looked at each other and saw the confusion in each other's eyes. Mo Yu said, "What is this brat doing?" Mu Yuzhu shook her head. "I don't know. Did he find something? Let's take a look." Soon, the two of them saw Mo Xiaobai take out the purple root grass from the deep hole with a smile on his face. After seeing the purple root grass, Mo Yu and Mu Yuzhu's breathing stopped and their eyes widened. Mo Yu grinned and lowered her voice. "Purple root grass? How did this brat find it? Did he learn a special origin skill to search for herbs? Did he become a herbalist?" Mu Yuzhu frowned and said, "Even if it's an origin skill to search for herbs, with Xiao Bai's cultivation, he shouldn't be able to find the herbs underground, right?" Mo Yu and Mu Yuzhu looked at each other, their minds full of question marks. After holding it in for a long time, Mo Yu said, "Could it be that he was lucky enough to find it?" Mu Yuzhu's mouth twitched. She wasn't too sure. Probably not, right? However, thinking about how Mo Xiaobai could even find a void treasure, it didn't seem impossible for him to find something else. "Let's ask this brat when we get back." While the two of them were talking, Mo Xiaobai had already put away the purple root grass and continued to search for things. The two of them hurriedly followed him. The sky gradually darkened. Mo Xiaobai had searched a large hill and had a bountiful harvest. His face was full of smiles. He was very satisfied with his harvest today. He stood on a large rock and looked up at the orange sunset. After thinking for a while, he decided to go back. He had already gained enough today. The void domain was much more dangerous at night than during the day. This was what Mu Yuzhu had said earlier. He began to walk down the slope. When Mo Xiaobai reached the foot of the mountain, he suddenly saw a red light flashing in the distance. His eyes immediately lit up. This red light was about the same as the purple root grass. Was it also an elite-grade item? Mo Xiaobai happily approached it. However, when Mo Xiaobai arrived at the location of the light, he was dumbfounded. The red light was sitting on a piece of limestone. However, there was nothing growing on the limestone. Mo Xiaobai frowned and stared at the limestone. It couldn't be growing on the limestone, right? He used the gray stone sword to knock on the limestone, producing a crisp sound. The gray stone sword left streaks of white scratches on the blue stone. Mo Xiaobai looked around the limestone. After confirming that there was nothing outside, he thought for a while and decided to see if he could cut the limestone. He held the sword with both hands and used all his strength to slash at the limestone. Clang! The tip of the sword embedded into the limestone, and small cracks appeared around it. Mo Xiaobai saw this, and his eyes lit up. There seemed to be hope. He raised the sword and slashed again. Just as Mo Xiaobai was slashing at the limestone, Mo Yu and Mu Yuzhu in the distance were speechless. Could it be that this brat discovered something again? Mo Yu complained. Mu Yuzhu shook her head slightly. I don't know. Let's wait and see. Then, she looked at the gradually darkening sky and frowned slightly. However, it's already a little late. Xiaobai, this kid, it's already so late and he still hasn't returned to the base. Luckily, they were here this time. What if they weren't? Mu Yuzhu was a little angry, and Mo Yu agreed. When we return, we'll teach this brat a lesson. Chapter 22. Mo Xiaobai raised his sword and slashed at the limestone, producing a series of clanging sounds. After a few minutes, a layer of 10 centimeters of gravel was cut off from the blue stone. However, what puzzled Mo Xiaobai was that even after cutting off more than 10 centimeters of gravel, nothing appeared from the blue stone. Could it be that it was not within the limestone? Mo Xiaobai frowned slightly and glanced at the red light above the blue stone. At this time, Mo Xiaobai discovered that the red light this time was slightly different from when he found the purple root grass. When he found the purple root grass, the red light went deep into the ground until it touched the purple root grass. But now, the red light was floating in the air and did not go deep into the limestone. What was going on? Mo Xiaobai raised his eyebrows, somewhat puzzled. There was nothing in the air. Mo Xiaobai had already touched it before. There was no special space like the void treasure. Then there was a problem. Since it was not in the air or in the limestone, what did the red light symbolize? As Mo Xiaobai pondered, the sky in the distance became darker and darker. He looked at the little orange-gold light in the sky and hesitated. Should he go back first and come back tomorrow? Otherwise, it would be too dangerous at night. Screech! Just as Mo Xiaobai was about to leave, a sharp screech came from the depths of the distant hills. Mo Xiaobai suddenly raised his head and looked in the direction of the screech. In the orange-gold sky, a huge figure flew out from behind the distant mountain peak. Mo Xiaobai's body tensed up, and he gripped his sword tightly, looking at the figure in the distance with some vigilance. What was that? As the figure came closer, Mo Xiaobai finally saw what it was. He opened his eyes wide in disbelief. It was a gray-black giant eagle with a wingspan of more than 2 meters. Greystone Eagle. The elite level magical beasts of the Greystone Hills were extremely strong. What surprised Mo Xiaobai the most was that the Blackstone Eagle was holding a Greystone Wolf that was no smaller than it in its sharp claws. This Greystone Wolf was completely different from the ones Mo Xiaobai had encountered before. Its back, forehead, and even its limbs were covered in Greystone armor. His strength was obviously not something an ordinary Greystone Wolf could compare to. An elite Greystone Wolf. At this moment, the Greystone Eagle's claws were holding the Greystone Wolf, while the Greystone Wolf's sharp claws were stuck in the Greystone Eagle's neck. Its ferocious sharp teeth were biting the Greystone Eagle's thigh. The two powerful elite magic beasts seemed to be in a deadlock. The Greystone Eagle struggled to throw the Greystone Wolf down, but because the Greystone Wolf was biting its thigh, as long as it let go of its sharp claws, the Greystone Wolf could bring it down with it. Mo Xiaobai could see that the Greystone Eagle's flying posture had changed, and its flight path had become very disorderly. Screech! The Greystone Eagle let out another screech, and Mo Xiaobai could hear the pain in its screech. As the Greystone Eagle continued to fly closer, The strength of its wings became weaker and weaker. Finally, when the greystone eagle flew close to Mo Xiaobai's head, its body twitched, and its wings stopped flapping. It fell heavily from the sky. Thump! The bodies of the greystone eagle and greystone wolf fell in front of Mo Xiaobai. They landed on the blue stone that had a layer of broken stones cut off in front of Mo Xiaobai. The two magic beasts were already heavily injured. After falling from a height of tens of meters, their bones were immediately broken, and their vitality dissipated. Then, the flesh of the two magic beasts began to shrink, and a green light flashed around their bodies. This was the prelude to the extraction of a transcendent item. Moreover, it was an elite transcendent item, Mo Xiaobai. Looking at the greystone eagle and greystone wolf that were extracting transcendent materials, Mo Xiaobai's mind was unable to react. Treasures would fall from the sky just by standing here, and elite transcendent materials at that. What kind of luck was this? Just as Mo Xiaobai's mind was filled with question marks, he suddenly saw that when the two elite magical beasts began to separate extraordinary materials, the red light in the air actually began to slowly dissipate. His body stiffened, and his eyes widened. His breathing was somewhat hurried. Could this be the treasure that the red light was guiding him to? How is this possible? Mo Xiaobai stared at the red light in the sky until it turned white. The green light on the two magic beasts also slowly dissipated, leaving behind dried flesh, a few green transcendent materials, and a few rank 1 origin crystals. The greystone wolf's body was covered with a layer of stone armor and 2 of its sharp fangs. Meanwhile, the greystone eagle's body was covered with a pair of gray claws suffused with a metallic luster and 8 gray feathers. All of them were flashing with a green light. They were all elite-grade, transcendent materials. At the same time, the two magic beasts produced a total of 13 rank 1 origin crystals. The greystone eagle produced 7, and the greystone wolf produced 6. Mo Xiaobai exhaled slightly. His heart was beating violently in his chest, so much so that he felt some pain in his chest. The red light was actually indicating the transcendent materials and origin crystals of the two magic beasts. The effect of the light had far exceeded his imagination. It could even predict that the two magic beasts would perish together in a few minutes. This didn't seem to be as simple as finding treasures, right? The red light could predict good luck, not just in the present, but also in the future. This was truly too. Mo Xiaobai was incomparably excited. He didn't know how to describe it for a moment. This light was too powerful. In the distant forest, Mo Xiaobai and Mu Yuzhu were a bit angry because the sky was gradually darkening, but Mo Xiaobai still hadn't returned to the base. After hearing the bird cry, the two of them raised their heads and looked at the sky. Mu Yuzhu's eyes widened. A greystone eagle? Mo frowned. It seems to be holding a greystone wolf? They're both elite transcendent. The two looked at each other in dismay. But these two magic beasts seemed to be heavily injured. Let's continue to observe the situation. Then, the two saw the greystone eagle and greystone wolf stagger over Mo Xiaobai's head and land heavily. Thump! The dull sound of the landing landed heavily in their hearts. Mu Yuzhu. Looking at the greystone eagle and greystone wolf that were slowly producing transcendent materials and origin crystals, their minds were full of question marks. After a moment of silence, the corner of Mo Yu's mouth twitched. She was unconvinced. Damn, what kind of luck does this brat have? A pie falling from the sky, and 2 elite transcendent corpses at once. I'm his father. Why can't I have such good luck? Everyone was dumbfounded. Mu Yuzhu's beautiful face was also filled with confusion. These 2 elite transcendent corpses brought at least 100 grade 1 origin crystals. Our son couldn't have been chosen by the goddess of luck, right? This kind of luck was simply inhuman. P.S. Well, if everyone thinks it's not bad, please vote for it. The new book needs everyone's care. Chapter 23. While Mo Yu and Mu Yuzhu were still in shock, they suddenly frowned at the same time and turned to look at the forest and piles of rocks. Mo Yu raised his eyebrows. It seems that the commotion just now has attracted some wolves. Mu Yuju's red eyes were filled with killing intent as a red wooden longbow appeared in her hand. She said coldly, "How dare you have designs on my son? You must be tired of living." Mou patted Mu Yuju's shoulder. "Wife, wait a moment." Mu Yuju glared at him. "What's wrong?" Mou coughed dryly and said, "Let's observe the situation first. This is the first time that Brat has come out alone. He'll definitely encounter people with ulterior motives in the future. Let's teach him a lesson and leave a deep impression. He'll be more vigilant in the future." Hearing Mou's words, Mu Yuju frowned slightly and thought for a moment before nodding. "That's fine." The two of them glanced at the places where people were hidden and then paid attention to Mo Xiaobai. After the initial shock, Mo Xiaobai happily picked up the extraordinary materials and origin crystals on the ground. With so many extraordinary materials, how much could he sell them for? He had made a huge profit this time. Mo Xiaobai was very satisfied. Not only was the harvest great, but he also knew another function of the red ray. The sky was getting darker and darker. Mo Xiaobai looked at the gradually darkening sky and frowned slightly. It seemed that he had to hurry back. He turned around and planned to leave. But at this moment, he paused and looked in the direction of the forest in the distance. In the distant forest, a black figure slowly walked out and walked toward Mo Xiaobai. Mo Xiaobai's body tensed up and frowned as he looked at the black figure in the distance. Mo Xiaobai was on high alert. He glanced at the shrunken flesh of the two magical beasts. Was it because of the gray stone eagle's cry? Or was it because it saw the gray stone eagle flying over? The figure in the distance was getting closer and closer. Mo Xiaobai could see his face clearly under the dim sky. It was a human with brown curly hair. His face was a little round, and there was a gentle smile on his thick lips. He looked very kind. Mo Xiaobai might have really thought that this guy was kind if it wasn't for the grayish-black light surrounding him. But now, in Mo Xiaobai's eyes, the smile on his face was extremely sinister. This guy was a huge threat to him. He pointed his sword at the brown-haired human and said coldly, "Stop. If you come any closer, I'll make a move." The brown-haired human was stunned for a moment. He looked at Mo Xiaobai, who had a rather youthful face, and his eyes were filled with surprise. Why were youngsters so vigilant these days? Then he glanced at the corpses of the two magical beasts beside Mo Xiaobai, and a greedy look flashed in his eyes. He fell to the ground with his head raised. Mo Xiaobai looked at Qinpeng's corpse. His face was pale. His hand holding the sword was trembling slightly, and his heart was beating like a war drum. Because he was too nervous, his fingertips were tingling with pain. Mo Xiaobai looked at Qinpeng's corpse, which was still bleeding, and licked his dry lips. Huff! Huff! He breathed heavily, trying to calm his complicated emotions. He killed someone. This was his first time killing someone, but he did not regret it. From the color of the black light, just now, if he did not kill Qinpeng would have killed him. As expected, his mother was right. Mo Xiaobai sighed slightly. Looking at Qinpeng's corpse, his gaze was complicated. In the void, there were many greedy people who wanted to kill someone and steal their treasures. He did not expect that he would encounter such a person on the first day. Hiss! When Mo Xiaobai suddenly unleashed 3 consecutive slashes to kill Qinpeng. There were all kinds of gasps in the forest. In the forest far away, there were 3 places where people were hiding. 2 rabbit men were hiding behind a large tree that required 2 people to wrap their arms around it. A barbarian, a human, and a night spirit were hiding behind some bushes. The last one was Mou and Mu Yuju. At this moment, everyone was looking at Mo Xiaobai with their eyes wide open. Mo Xiaobai was too decisive. From a moment he unleashed his power to killing Qinpeng. He did not leave any leeway. He was completely aiming to kill. The people in the dark all widened their eyes, and their scalps went numb. With the young people nowadays so difficult to deal with. Chapter 24. Behind the bushes, Night Spirit looked at Mo Xiaobai in the distance with a hint of shock in her eyes. She swallowed her saliva and asked the barbarian softly, Boss, what should we do? The barbarian man furrowed his brows and stared at Mo Xiaobai in the distance. His eyes flashed with fear. I didn't expect Chun Peng to die in his hands. Chun Peng's cultivation was at 1 aperture level 6, but he was killed so easily. Is this guy really that strong? The human man beside him wanted to retreat. Boss, even if the 3 of us can kill him together, 1 or 2 of us might die. We might even die together. The barbarian man did not say anything. He looked at Mo Xiaobai and wondered if he should attack. The 2 rabbit men behind the tree were also whispering to each other. Brother, what do you think? Do you want to do it? Chun Peng died in his hands. Are we sure we can do it? But Chun Peng has a lot of wealth. Are we going to give it up just like that? The 2 rabbit men's eyes flashed. If it was before, they would have given up. After all, it was just 2 magical beasts' extraordinary materials. But now, Chun Peng's inheritance was included. Although Mo Xiaobai's strength shocked them, they were not willing to give up so easily with so many resources in front of them. In another direction, Mo Yu and Mu Yuzhu looked at each other with shock in their eyes when they saw Mo Xiaobai kill Chun Peng. After a moment of silence, Mu Yuzhu slowly put down her longbow. Xiaobai will be fine, even if we don't follow him. Mo Yu nodded. Yes, I wasn't so decisive when I was his age. There was a look of relief on his face. Mu Yuzhu smiled and said proudly, Of course. Don't you know whose son he is? Mo Yu's mouth twitched. Wasn't he his son, too? What did she say? He did not want to argue with Mu Yuzhu. Instead, he narrowed his eyes and looked in the direction where the other 2 groups were hiding. I'm afraid they don't want to give up yet. Let's see how Xiaobai handles this. Mu Yuzhu's gaze turned cold again as she tightened her grip on her longbow. After taking a deep breath for a moment, Mo Xiaobai finally calmed down. He was about to go forward and pick up Chun Peng's things. At this moment, he suddenly paused and turned to look in the direction of the forest. His pupils contracted. In order to kill Chun Peng, he had approached the forest. The white light had already covered the forest. Now, he discovered that there was still a grayish-black light in the forest. And there were 2 of them. His entire body tensed up, and his right hand gripped the heavy sword tightly. Although these 2 spots were slightly dimmer than Chun Peng's, it did not mean that there was no danger. He swept his gaze over the 2 spots with the grayish-black light and said coldly, Who's there? Come out. Hearing Mo Xiaobai's words, the 3 barbarians and the 2 rabbit men who were still in a dilemma trembled. Their eyes widened in shock. The barbarians said with some surprise, He can actually sense us? The human male's eyes flashed with a trace of fear. Boss, I'm afraid he's stronger than what he's shown. The rabbit woman also said, Boss, why don't we retreat? The 2 rabbit men on the other side also looked at each other. After a moment of silence, both sides made up their minds. Retreat. In Mo Xiaobai's vision, the grayish-black light in the 2 spots began to slowly dissipate and finally turned white. Mo Xiaobai was stunned and a little puzzled. What's going on? There was clearly a grayish-black light just now. Why did it suddenly disappear? He carefully looked in the direction of the forest. After confirming that the grayish-black light was gone, he let out a sigh of relief. It was really gone. Did they leave? His tense body relaxed. Although the triple slash was powerful, it consumed too much origin power. In just 1 use, he had used up close to 1/3 of his origin power. Of course, the main reason was that his cultivation was too low and his origin power reserves were too little. If 2 people of similar strength to Chun Peng were to join forces and attack him, he wasn't sure if he could really beat them. Fortunately, they seemed to have something to do and left. Mo Xiaobai looked around again. After confirming that there was no danger nearby, he began to pack up Chun Peng's things. He first went to pick up the long sword that he had shaken off earlier. He injected origin power into the long sword and tested it, confirming that it was an elite-grade longsword. Just this longsword alone was probably worth hundreds of origin crystals. Mo Xiaobai was delighted and put away the longsword. Then, he put away Chun Peng's leather armor, which was also of elite grade. Finally, Mo Xiaobai looked at Chun Peng's fingers. After seeing the 2 rings on Chun Peng's fingers, he was stunned. 2 spatial rings? He bent down and took off the two rings, injecting origin power into them. Then, he discovered that one of them was a spatial ring, while the other was a light gray ring that was suffused with a faint green light. He looked at the light gray ring that was suffused with a faint green light, his eyes wide open and his face full of surprise. It was actually an origin power equipment, and it was an elite grade origin power ring. Origin power rings were very rare. Just this ring alone was probably worth more than 500 origin crystals, right? He happily put the light gray ring on his finger and felt the changes brought about by this origin power equipment. Wisps of energy from the light gray ring flowed into Mo Xiaobai's body. Mo Xiaobai felt that his internal organs and bones were strengthened to a certain extent. His breathing became more prolonged, and at the same time, his explosive strength and sharpness of his body were also slightly improved. Increased endurance and sharpness, huh? Mo Xiaobai was delighted. This ring's effects were not bad. After wearing it, his combat strength would increase by another 10%. Then, Mo Xiaobai looked at the dark black spatial ring, wanting to see what Shen Peng had. A wolf! A wolf! Just as Mo Xiaobai wanted to see what was inside the spatial ring, wolf howls came from the depths of the hill. The wolf howls were endless, and they were approaching at an extremely fast speed. Mo Xiaobai's expression changed dramatically, and he turned to look in the direction of the wolf howls behind him. Under the dark blue sky, he saw gray shadows rushing down the hill from afar. There were dozens of them. Mo Xiaobai felt a chill rush from his back to the top of his head, and his scalp went numb. He turned and ran without even thinking. A pack of gray stone wolves. It must be that elite gray stone wolf. It must be that pack of elite gray stone wolves coming for it. Mo Xiaobai rushed into the small forest. After running for a few hundred meters, he heard the wolf howls behind him change, becoming even more violent and fierce. They had discovered the corpse. Mo Xiaobai's back was drenched in cold sweat. They wouldn't come for him, right? Just as this thought appeared in his mind, he heard the wolf howls approaching him. Mo Xiaobai, the corner of his mouth twitched violently. He circulated his origin power, poured it into his legs, and ran madly in the direction of the base. P.S. Frowny face thanks to Lin Yiji and Wind of the Sky for their tips. Chapter 25. Mo Xiaobai ran quickly through the forest, the trees and vines whizzing past him. The sky was now completely dark. Mo Xiaobai relied on the weak starlight and his improved eyesight to see the path in front of him. He did not want to run into a tree. However, the wolf howls behind him made Mo Xiaobai's mouth dry up. If they caught up to him, wouldn't there be nothing left of him? Thinking of this, his scalp went numb, and he increased his speed. The Greystone Hills at night were much more dangerous than during the day. Mo Xiaobai now understood the meaning of this saying. Within 100 meters of him, gray light would appear from time to time. Sometimes, there would even be 3 or 4 areas with gray light at the same time. These were all magical beasts. There were much more of them than during the day. Even without the wolf pack chasing him, Mo Xiaobai still had to be careful. As for now, although he tried his best not to make any noise, in order to run at full speed, he would still attract the attention of some magical beasts. Roar! A roar sounded. In front of Mo Xiaobai's right, a greystone wild boar lowered its head and charged towards him. Its sharp fangs glowed with a faint white light. Mo Xiaobai saw the greystone wild boar charging towards him, and his eyes flashed with hostility. Scram! The muscles in his right arm tightened, and he swung his sword. Boom! The heavy sword slammed into the head of the greystone wild boar, and the huge force sent it flying. The sound of bones cracking and the wild boar's screams rang out in the quiet night sky. Mo Xiaobai did not stop, and did not even look at the greystone wild boar that had been sent flying. He continued to run forward. After running out of the forest, there were still hills as far as the eye could see. Mo Xiaobai continued to run with his head down. Along the way, Mo Xiaobai would occasionally encounter magical beasts blocking his way. There were at least 1, and at most 3 or 4, and their strength varied. Some were only level 1, while others were level 4 or 5. Mo Xiao by either killed his way through or took a detour to avoid his enemies. It was difficult for him to make his way back to the encampment. His newly bought leather armor had a few more cracks on it, and there were also a few wounds on his body. Blood slowly flowed out. Fortunately, along the way, Mo Xiao by relied on the terrain and his own speed to not let the wolf pack close in on him. In fact, he even left them further behind. The howling of the wolves behind him was already very weak, and the number of wolves seemed to be less than before. Mo Xiaobai was overjoyed. It seemed like they were going to give up. After all, they had chased them for so long. He took a deep breath and drank a few mouthfuls of water from his space ring. The cold water moisturized his parched throat and swept away some of his fatigue. Mo Xiaobai furrowed his brows as he felt waves of pain coming from his wounds. Then, he continued to move and climbed up the mountain. After reaching the top of the mountain, Mo Xiaobai saw the flashing lights on the plains in the distance. His eyes were filled with excitement and surprise. Finally, they were about to arrive. He took a deep breath and hurriedly ran down the mountain. Along the way, Mo Xiaobai remained vigilant and constantly paid attention to the surrounding light. If the light turned gray, he would quickly avoid it. Soon, he reached the bottom of the last hill and arrived at the plains outside the Greystone Hills. He ran in the direction of the encampment. Not long after Mo Xiaobai left, Mo Yu and Mu Yuzhu came down from the mountain. Mu Yuzhu was accompanied by Little Red. Little Red stuck out her tongue slightly, and the two Greystone wolves about 100 meters away ran away with their tails between their legs. Mu Yuzhu's fingers gently brushed Little Red's scales, but her eyes were fixed on Mo Xiaobai's figure in the distance. Her eyes were filled with heartache. On the side, Mo Yu looked at Mo Xiaobai in the distance and exhaled slightly. She smiled and said, "Being chased by a pack of Greystone wolves at night and only suffering some light injuries. This kid is already a mature adventurer." Minor injuries? Mu Yuzhu glared at Mo Yu. "You call that minor injuries?" Mo Yu's mouth twitched, but he didn't say anything. He cursed in his heart. No one was missing an arm or a leg. Wasn't that just a minor injury? Mu Yuzhu continued. "However, I didn't expect Xiaobai to perform so well today. With his performance, we don't have to worry about him in the future." Mo Yu nodded. "Indeed, I thought we would need to do something." Even as experienced adventurers, they couldn't find any fault with Mo Xiaobai's performance today. Especially when he was escaping from the Greystone wolves, it was especially exciting. He actually dodged so many magic beasts along the way. This was something they never expected. All right, let's go back. At the entrance of the encampment, there were two teams of guards on duty. "Captain, an adventurer has returned," an elven guard said. The captain of the merfolk guards looked up in the direction of the wilderness. In the dark wilderness, a figure was approaching. He raised his eyebrows slightly. "Stay alert." The figure in the darkness was getting closer and closer. Soon, the guard saw his face clearly. After seeing Mo Xiaobai's young face, all the guards were stunned. After seeing Mo Xiaobai's wounds and bloodstains, everyone's pupils constricted. How fierce of a battle did this young man go through? Everyone looked at Mo Xiaobai with more respect. Mo Xiaobai came to the city gate. He was a little confused by the guards' gazes, but he didn't care much. He was very tired now. He just wanted to go back and rest. Just as Mo Xiaobai was about to enter the city, he was stopped by the merfolk captain. He said coldly, "Proof of identity, adventurer's badge, or pass will do." Mo Xiaobai was stunned. He asked curiously, "I don't need that when I leave the city, right?" The merfolk captain glanced at Mo Xiaobai and smiled. "Young man, is this your first time in the Void territory?" Mo Xiaobai replied, "I came here with my teacher a few days ago." "And you're still a high school student?" After Mo Xiaobai said this, the guards' eyes widened. They were in an uproar. Mo Xiaobai looked at the guards' shocked expressions. He was confused. "What's wrong? Is there a problem?" The merfolk captain turned around and stared at the guards. Then he looked at Mo Xiaobai with a gentler expression. He smiled and said, "It's nothing. They just haven't seen a genius before. A high school student who's already a body fundamentalist and can come back alive from Greystone Hills at night." Young man, you're very strong. Mo Xiaobai was a little embarrassed by the merfolk captain's praise. He grinned. Senior, you're too kind. The merfolk captain smiled. Last time when your teacher brought you here, you went back before night, right? Mo Xiaobai was stunned. Then he nodded. Yes, that's right. Entering the base at night is different. You need identification. Mo Xiaobai revealed a look of realization. He took out his pass and handed it over. The merfolk captain swiped the pass on a strange device. After a beep, he nodded and returned the pass to Mo Xiaobai. Okay, you can go in. Mo Xiaobai nodded. Thank you, senior. He turned around and entered the base. After Mo Xiaobai entered the encampment, the originally silent guards immediately burst into an uproar. This young man is incredible. He's only a high school student, and he's already a body fundamentalist. That's not all. This is Greystone Hills at night. Even a 1 aperture level 4 or 5 wouldn't dare to say that he can come back alive. But this young man actually came back alive. TSK. If that's the case, this young man's ability might be at 1 aperture level 5. The guards fell silent and looked at each other. The merfolk captain looked at Mo Xiaobai's departing figure and couldn't help but sigh. Pingxi Town is going to be famous this year. The night creature vice captain's eyes flashed. He was very shocked. There's still a month before the college entrance exam. Pingxi Town might be able to produce a young dragon to participate in the first prize trial.